Good evening. This is July 11th, 2023 at 6 o'clock in the Selectmen's Chambers, and I'll call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Teresa A. Moss, present.
Joe Shane, present.
Chad Sexton Duranian, present. 1.2, Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank all those who serve our country, those families behind those individuals, and all our first responders as well. This meeting is going to be recorded and uploaded to YouTube when it's finished. We're also live on Channel 9. Chairman's additions and deletions. I'll start with deletions. We're going to delete the executive session on the end, gladly. Any additions? Teresa, no? Joe, any additions? I do not have any, but I do know that we have the meeting minutes for May 16th, 2023.
I have some discussion on that. We make a motion first.
Sure.
I make a motion that we review and approve the meeting minutes for May 16th, 2023.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, and discussion. What do you got?
Just a couple of things. And maybe it's just, I'm sure it's just semantics, if I'm bringing it up, but there's a line when they're talking about the escaping lumen bylaw, zoning bylaw that the zoning board of appeals had looked at.
4.8.
4.8.
Yeah.
And I didn't think the zoning board came up with it. The line there says that the something about it's been determined that the Board of Selectmen is to enforce, the enforcing agent. There it is. It's been made clear that the Board of Selectmen is was the enforcing agent for the town code. I didn't think that was ever made clear. I thought this town, so the zoning board of appeals said it was the building inspector. Or building commissioner.
Building commissioner.
And then we said, well, it's ambiguous. Remember, it didn't really fall, so we
Well,
said.
there was two, there's two bylaws.
Right.
That's what we, in.
Right, so it does end that we said, Eric, we'll look at this, we'll take a draft, but I think it's to have that line that it was made clear that we are is incorrect in the minutes. Because
So where is that one?
about 3 lines down, let's see, 1, 2, 3, it's the 4th line in 4.8. It was made clear that the Board of Selectmen was the enforcement agent per town code. That is not, I was not made clear in my opinion at the meeting, and did not occur, because we agreed to follow up with the zoning committee because they had already made a ruling on it.
And I was under the impression that it was the building commissioner that was the.
That's how I was too, but I
Enforcing
didn't.
authority for the zoning person,
But-
aspect of it,
but-
yes.
But the general bylaw,
The general bylaw was the one that is not clear, and that's the one that went in front of the town and got voted down.
But the Board of Selectmen are the authorities of the finding.
Well, that's not clear,
It's
that's
not
what I'm
clear,
saying.
But that's what,
that was in front of the town, which got voted down.
Yeah, well, in front of the town, the bylaw would have changed to add the building commissioner as the enforcement officer for that general bylaw. There's not an enforcement provision as a part of the general bylaw right now.
Right now, it's ambiguous, so
Not-
that statement in the minutes is not accurate, that's all.
So- My thought is it was unclear that the Board of Selectmen.
Exactly, just put
Yes,
it on in it, right,
Are we in agreement with
I'm
that?
fine with that.
I'm good with that.
And then I'll talk with Sabrina offline about that.
I'm fine. And then to make more semantics, let's see, where was it? Let's go.
That's, that's pretty loud.
So,
Sorry.
That's some chicken.
again, this is semantics, I do not mind it being kept here, but I just want to make my point correct. I don't think this is what we're saying in the meeting. So we are on section 4.1 of the signing of liaison. I had asked because I had spoken with Eric, and I guess I wasn't really clear with you. I think it came out maybe that I didn't want to be reading meeting minutes. There might be other things. I think it might have came out that I actually declined any of the assignments, but my question was, do I have the right to decline? But this says I actually declined the assignment. I don't think that's an accurate statement. I asked if I did have the right to decline, and I also asked if it be reassigned. But if you guys want to keep it in, I'm okay with it, but I don't think that's an accurate
No,
statement.
well, what would you like it to say? You haven't
Well,
changed.
but that is what happened, right? When we were at
No,
that
I
meeting,
asked if I could have some of my assignments reassigned, but you can keep it as decline. You know, if you want to put decline for medical reasons, or ask for assistance because of medical reasons, or however you want to do it, you can just leave it as it is.
I personally never heard anything about a medical issue.
Well, I just guess that I called Eric from the hospital when I literally.
But I'm just saying, I never heard that. So, if we want to talk about liaison.
Well, I did want to find out, because I did talk about, because remember, Chaz, there's two policies. One says upon the acceptance of the committee member, and then one says it's assigned by the chair. So that's why I was saying, do I even have the right to decline? Remember that whole conversation?
I do remember that conversation.
So that's what I'm trying to say here. I think, I'd like to say it, I'd like to get that answer. Does a committee member have a right to decline a proposed assignment? Because one bylaw says we do, well, one statement says we do, and one statement says we don't. So I think what I would like it to say there is Teresa Morse asked if she could decline proposed assignments, and then we can go with and ask for adjustments.
That night, we're gonna discuss that night then, is that what we're gonna do?
We're reviewing the minutes, Jim.
Yeah, but so that's what we're talking about, right? So the minutes, and I thought it was very clear, because I was handed a bylaw saying that a select person has to accept the assignments, and you stated that you didn't want to accept the assignments.
There were two laws that were passed out that night. One that says you have to accept, and one that says you have to agree to accept.
One didn't say that you have to accept, one said that the
Yeah, I'm sorry, they're assigned by
the
the
chair
chair.
can be
Right.
assigned.
And the other said that the chair assigned with the acceptance of the committee member. There were two separate.
Right,
Because they were-
and what I'm seeing here, and this is, you said semantics.
Right,
I'm
and it
gonna go-
is, and
gonna
I'm
go-
okay with keeping it.
I'm gonna go semantics. You declined what was passed out,
Right,
then we made an
so
adjustment.
I have no problem.
Okay.
But I
So
don't
it's-
decline doing minutes. So I
Correct.
want
Yeah.
that to be straightened out.
All right.
Okay, we're good to go.
All right. We're good to go.
But I do like to get that straightened out, because it's gonna come up again.
Yeah.
You know it is.
Yeah.
Right, we gotta get that straightened.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it, I'm done.
So, I guess we can either go ahead with these minutes, or we can, put this on for the next.
I think we just approved these minutes with just the exception of it was made unclear on 4.8.
I'm okay
Just
with
have it
that.
You
changed.
okay with that?
I mean, just approve them that way. Teresa, can we do that?
I'll
I'll
take,
make a motion that we approve the minutes from, okay, what
May 16th.
May 16th, with the change that it was unclear. Clear.
I'll second that.
I don't think we need another discussion on that. So all those in favor?
Teresa A. Morse, yes?
Joe Shank, yes.
Chess Sexton, yes. Actually, we can just say yes, we're all here together.
Yeah.
Let's make it
Nice.
easy.
Okay.
Aye, Captain. All right. I need to bring my reading glasses, so I'm gonna be taking them off and putting them on again. Okay, so our appointment is gonna be at 6:30, so we're gonna jump down to meeting business 4.10, review and approve the Townsend Police Department policies and procedures. Chief, before you start, I just want to say that I am very impressed with the fact that you took it to do this, because I think it's very clear, it's concise, and it's exactly what we needed. I wish we had this several years ago. Having said that, go ahead.
Sure, I'll join you if I could, just so I can spread it out. Yeah, a matter of looking through the policies, and as the board knows, we're in the midst of our self-assessment stage of accreditation, which is calls for us reviewing all of our policies. And we're making our way through as best we can do that. One of the areas we found to be problematic was with the absence of a dispatch center in our building. Our current Corey policy is such that it required basically a complete rewrite. So I figured what we would do is we would come to the board with a completely new policy that meets the best practices, will help us with our audits, makes it a little easier, and is much more designed much better in terms of having a regional dispatch center that controls some of our data. But it does make it much more clear, as you had alluded to, relative to employee conduct, background investigations, criteria for when and when not to restrict areas in the building, and when to restrict access, and unescorted versus escorted, and how we handle vendors. And there's a whole thing behind that. So fairly easy, fairly straightforward. Basically a boilerplate and a model that C just puts out that you have to then bend to meet the needs of your particular agency, but nothing really fuzzy here. It's pretty straightforward and technical.
Do either of you two have any questions on this?
Yeah, I just had one. I was just kind of surprised to see it in there. They talked about 1D, where it talked about equipment, including personal digital assistants, palm pilots, et cetera. Do you use personal digital assistants? And are you concerned?
So we do not. We, for Corey information or for CGIS, no, but I think that may extend to our mobile data terminals in the cars. Those are mobile, certainly they're in a rack and inside the vehicle, and you need a key to get them out of. We don't encourage that, but yeah, that's more geared towards the personal. But there could be, and has been over the years, instances where that might lend itself to a short-term fix, maybe for an investigation or such, where you would access through that, but there are pretty tight parameters and wormholes that need to be installed in it. So we do not have personally owned or electronic devices that would in any way connect to our network.
And I assume when they mean, because they did say mobile data workstations, and then they said PDAs. I think that they're not meaning that it's a personal PDA. They're using the terminology
Correct.
PDA,
That's correct.
but it's a government.
Yeah, and we do have instances where we issue, for instance, at the police academy now, they don't give you books anymore. We give them an iPad that gets loaded up with a bunch of PDFs. So there are instances where this policy might kick in. And one of the interesting things about this whole process and learning curve for me in the last 5 years relative to Corey data at all is there are really two separate things. There is CGIS data, which is information you're gaining from access to an online database. And then there's criminal offender records, which is a vast definition, and there's all kinds of things that might fall under that definition. So if this policy kind of catches some of those blind spots that I think the older one does not. Whereas if you did have that iPad that we had issued you as part of your job, and you're at the police academy back and forth, and you violated the terms of this would give us some teeth to actually hold the person accountable for it. Whereas some of the ways, it just didn't reflect best practices nor the modern technology that exists today. But yeah, we do have mobile data terminals actually in all 9 of our police vehicles at this point. We have access to them. So we do use them quite frequently.
Thank you.
Any question? You got nothing?
Nope, I don't, sir.
So, I mean, we approve, I mean, I don't understand, it's a policy, so we just say that it follows along with.
You just vote to approve policy.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the, Townsend Police Department policy, and procedures, policy number 4.30, effective date 7/12/23.
Second.
If I could, just during the discussion period, just point out one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention and just give you some guidance, or just get guidance if you feel as though it's necessary. If and when we were working through this CJIS policy and we had town employees that were involved that we did not hire, janitors, facilities people or something along those lines, and there was some sort of prohibition from them being unescorted in the building, it would be my policy or my protocol would be to then address that through the town administrator about how to handle that type of employee. It could happen. There are instances, we have a number of volunteers and vendors that we utilize on a regular basis. Certainly facilities people would be top of that list, but you can see how fire department members, I mean, there's all kinds of people that we have access to our building and unescorted access. And when we do that, we do follow our quarry policy. One of the things we've never had a discussion about, and thankfully have not had to do, is approach the town administrator or the board of selectmen with that type of a weird curveball in someone's job description or job duties. I just wanted you to know from me how I would handle something like that if that were to occur. You do have some privacy implication, and the person is already hired, so that there is some labor issue that might result from my actions as well. But the thought process that I had going into it is I would go through the town administrator about that, explain to them the issue, and then work through it to determine whether or not that was a significant job description issue that they needed to be escorted to be in the building.
I agree, that should be.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's.
Because there is the instance where you could have somebody that gets a quarry check to work for the town, that's all fine and good. It wouldn't come back, but any levels of misdemeanors, for instance, we would have to apply for a waiver through CJIS to allow them unescorted access throughout the building. Now, people with misdemeanors would get hired in most job places because it wouldn't flag on a quarry. That's normally done for normal employment purposes because there's a deeper dive here. So I just wanted to throw it out there that's just if you had a different way or a different opinion than I do relative to how that would be handled, I would like to know that.
No, I am from the world of protected health information, so I understand that whole ideology. My biggest thing is regardless of whether they're an employee or not, they should be following what the rules of your department are. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and the town administrator is the one that would be the point person to, if you had questions or you had issues. Any more discussion? So I entertain a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So you have yourself a new policy?
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
What time do we come for dinner?
Well, I think I might have missed the vote, Joe, I might be doing the microwave thing myself.
Oh, well, we tried.
Thank you very much, I appreciate you getting me in, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, let's jump up to 3.1. I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint Mr. Mathos.
Make a motion that we appoint Matthew Mathos as conservation agent effective July 3rd, 2023.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. For discussion, now we had the conservation agent who went to the land use coordinator, and Matthew, who was the administrator, now is going up to the conservation agent.
Correct. It was part of the budget. We combined the conservation agent and conservation administrator jobs from 2 part-time jobs to one full-time job.
Good. And they are doing a great job over there. I'm very happy with their progress. So any other discussion on that one?
Yeah, I could.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious, so when a person takes a new position, no matter how, since he's been in the town before, he's not required to go, it says office made non-contingent on physical, alcohol, drug screening, quarry check, any of that. Is that, at what point, like how long are they with the town that we require them to redo that, or they re-quarried?
We don't require people to
Never.
be recorded or re-drug screened if they're getting a promotion or a transfer.
New test. Okay, thank you. Welcome over. Okay.
So all those in favor?
Yes?
Frank, yes.
Yes. So now you can say welcome aboard.
It's a little early.
3.2, reappoint Kimberly King. So I'll entertain a motion for that.
We decided to fill the office. Give me a second. Reappoint to, it's a reappointment?
Yes.
Yeah. I make a motion that the town of Townsend reappoint Kimberly R. King for the position of gallery committee member in a term to end 2023,
June 30th, 26.
June, a term to end June 30th, 23.
Okay,
Second.
motion's been made and seconded. Any comments? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome again, Kimberly. 3.3, Robert McManus.
I make a motion that we appoint Robert McManus as a per diem van driver for the Townsend Senior Center effective January 3rd, 2023.
That's July, I'm sorry, July 3rd.
Oh, I'm sorry, July 3rd, 2023, thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
You say motion?
Aye.
Aye. And 3.4, review approve disclosures of Townsend Historic District Commission members. Do you have any backup history on this?
Yes, my understanding is there are multiple members of the Townsend Historic District Commission who are also members of the Townsend Historical Society. The members, the Historic Society buildings, at least in part, fall within the Historic District Commission jurisdiction. There is my understanding is there's a plan for the redevelopment of the Harbor Church. It's likely to be for the Historic District Commission in the near future. And the members of the Historic District Commission who are also in the Historic Society
Right.
are required to file that disclosure. And it may very well be that we may need to invoke the rule of necessity with the part of this, because I believe there are multiple members. And in order to make a quorum, some of the members who are members of both may actually have to sit on the Historic District Commission. They would just have to kind of avert to the board that they could do their job.
Okay, so my understanding is that, well, first I want to talk about the request for written determination based on relevant facts. The two letters that I have here are for two commissioners on the Historic District Commission who have checked with the Ethics Committee or the Ethics Commission, and the commission said that these would be the letters that they would need to write to be on file, so that it's not, ethically, they can vote on both matters in both bodies.
Right.
Correct. So my question would be, I do know that there are other members that are also in that same situation, and they have not filed that. So how does that play out here?
In my opinion, they would either need to seek a determination from the State Ethics Commission, in all likelihood they would be given the same answer, or they need to just file something. I don't think that any member of the Historic District Commission who's also on the Historic Society should be sitting on a hearing for a Historic Society project without filing something or getting some sort of opinion from the State Ethics Commission.
Okay. So it would, or recuse themselves.
Or simply recuse themselves. Yeah, I mean, they could do that, and that may be their plan, to just recuse themselves and not sit on it, which they are also have be able to do.
Okay. So I guess what I'd like to read into the record are just the relevant facts, so that we're clear. Did you want to say something?
No.
The relevant facts on both of these is that they have no financial interest in the Townsend Historic Society and no financial obligations other than the payment of their annual dues in the amount of $15 per year. That they have absolutely no financial interest in the Townsend Historic District Commission. Offering the repair and rehabilitation of the aforementioned buildings would be beneficial to both the town of Townsend and the society. These repairs would, one, update public safety to visitors, and two, update historical information provided to visitors. Number four, rehabilitation of these four buildings does not require any financial obligation on the part of myself, the Townsend Historical Society, or the town of Townsend. Number five, I have complete and demonstrated knowledge of my obligation as a commissioner of the Townsend Historic District Commission to uphold and abide by Massachusetts General Law 40C and all bylaws of the Town of Townsend Historic District Commission. Number six, I have complete and demonstrated understanding of my duties as a director of the Board of Directors of the Townsend Historical Society to uphold the bylaws of the society. And number seven is the bylaws of both the commission and the society are mutually compatible as their stewardships. This was for Geraldine Buzikas, who also is on the Historic District Commission, and this other one is from Mary Jane Churchville, who is also on both. So they have filed, and I guess for us, we just accept it.
You would need to take a vote to accept it, yes.
Okay.
Can I just add to that? I know, we all know, but I'd like to have it into the record. We're talking about the Reed Homestead, the Grist Mill, the Harvard Church, and the Cooperage was spoken about specifically in this letter, but it could pertain to others. So I guess what they're looking for is a motion for us to approve an exemption procedure for the appointment of municipal employees under 19B, Section 1, which is a written disclosure of those facts that you said. So I make a motion that we do approve for those required members the exemption written disclosure under 49B.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? The only thing that I would want to add is that I did add in your packets the rule of necessity. And the rule of necessity, do you want me to take a stab at it, or do you want to?
I can if you want.
Yeah, no, I would appreciate it.
So typically what the rules of necessity means is when you have a multi-member body, in order to operate that body has a quorum requirement. It's typically, in most bodies, it's 50% plus one, but some other bodies have specific numbers written into their enacting legislation. So in order for the Board of Selectmen to act, there have to be two members of the Board of Selectmen. The rule of necessity states that even if you are conflicted, you have a conflict. If the board cannot act without you acting, you may invoke the rule of necessity to participate in a discussion of something you may otherwise need to, recuse yourself from.
Who invokes that? Is it the chair?
The chair can make the request. It's up to the individual is the person, typically what happens is the person says, I think I might have a conflict. The chair says, we need 5 people and you're the 5th, so I'm gonna invoke the rule of necessity as long as you believe that you can act impartially in the circumstances, and you say it, and then the person who.
If you don't have a chair.
I think it would be by consensus of the body. I mean, whoever is running the meeting, even if there's not a chair, whoever's running the meeting, whether that be the vice chair or another clerk, or whoever's running that meeting would be the person who would, kind of ask to invoke it. It does require that the person state that they believe that they can act impartially, notwithstanding the appearance of conflict they may have, but it does.
Okay.
In other words, it's designed so that bodies won't grind to a halt just because there's a possible period of conflict.
Right.
Because it could mean that the board may never act on something if there's a person.
I guess my question specifically is if there are some members that are going to recuse themselves and other members that are not, you still have to have a quorum.
Correct.
And if you don't have a quorum and you invoke the rule of necessity, that means now everybody can vote on that.
You would be asking the recused members if they believe they can act impartially, and if so, then they need to step up and vote.
Gotcha.
Seems like a lot easier because of big board.
I agree. But I just want to be very clear before, so that we've discussed it fully. So, all those in favor?
She said,
Aye. So, and I appreciate, that they went ahead and did this. All right, we are at 6:30 and we have a lively discussion of a three-phase power and private partnership possibilities with KW Government Services. Would that be you, gentlemen?
That would be us.
All righty.
Is there a possibility to project, or would you prefer a hard copy? How would you like to do that? We have a thumb drive. If you have an active computer, I brought mine. How would you suggest? Or you just want to do hard copy and leave it?
Yeah, why don't we do hard copy, only because that, for security purposes, we don't want to put anything in.
Absolutely,
in the system.
not so.
thank you very much.
Brad would be so proud of me here.
Yeah.
You just earned your brownie point for the IT specialist.
Sure. Oh, excellent, thank you. I get the comfy chair. That's fine.
Sit up with the big boys.
I wore nice shoes also. Okay, thank you for this time. I want to thank the board members for seeing us and having this lively discussion. What we are here to is Duncan and I, that's Duncan Chapman, I'm Stuart Kirchner. We're from the Keller Williams Commercial Government Services Group. One of the things we target is working with government entities to monetize underutilized and underperforming properties. You have some of those here. Every government has a brownfield, a taxa, a seized property, things of that nature, that what am I supposed to do with? One of the things we're here today is discussing possibility of solar. So it's very much in line with what our mission statement is at Government Services. So we're keeping this narrow right now to look at three-phase, but we are going to cover, just to give a 50,000 mile view of what the solar is and what it is, we're just gonna cover a generality, and then we'll target three-phase and the public-private partnerships within that. Okay. I'm gonna turn it over to Duncan right now to go over the basic processes of how to get solar, and then I'll pick up after that.
Yeah, so in the,
We don't have that in the, I can't put it on right now.
No, I'm not on the share phone, on the recording. I don't have it. Thank you.
What we asked him?
We have it in the share. I'm just wondering if it helps, but I don't know how many people are out there who have it up.
Only
On
one
the
person.
recording.
Well, there could be people watching on TV.
You can go ahead while we're doing it.
Okay.
okay, sure. So, yeah, glad to have a chance to present this to you guys, and just as the overview, as Stuart mentioned, in any solar development project, there's approximately 6 steps. That's in a private situation. So as you can see on page 2, first slide, identify optimal sites or sites within the portfolio of the owner. So, and these are the key bullets there: access to three-phase electrical utility infrastructure, land that is flat and cleared, trees with south or southwest sloping minimum wetlands, floodplains, no impact on protected native habitat, which can be an issue depending upon the areas being looked at, and no impact on cultural or ecological resources, Native American Indians, etc. So most of this is just done through desktop analysis. Next, we go into the land acquisition, but in the government situation, as we're talking about here, any government agency is going to have to run the 30B process for the state of Massachusetts. And you'd have to put it out to bid. And that's what we would propose to do if the selectmen decided they wanted to go forward with such a project. Eventually, we would figure out what sites are the best sites to put out for RFP, put that out for RFP under the 30B process. We work with your town council to make sure we're following all of the procurement rules of the 30B process. And then when those bids come back in, we would help evaluate and make recommendations on which might be the best value for the town of Townsend. Typically, obviously there's fees involved, but our fees are put into the project and are paid by the selected developer. So we've done this in Mendon, we've done it in Onset Fire and Water District, and we've done it on 16 other private situations where that's how it's handled. So back to the land, acquisition. We would, in this case, if the town had a number of pieces or at least one piece, then we would use that land as part of the RFP for to select the solar developer. Just to go back on what that all means, typically 1 megawatt of power takes about approximately 4 acres of land, 4 to 5 acres of land. So in the state of Massachusetts, there's one rules under the Department of Energy where you can do no more than 5 megawatts on any one site. 5 megawatts could be 25 or 30 acres. What does that mean in money? Approximately $25,000 per megawatt would be the rental value to the town from the developer on an annual basis. So a 5 megawatt solar project on one parcel of land could bring in as much as $125,000. That would be both rent and also the pilot that the assessor would administer. So these deals are typically 20-year deals, initial term, and 4 to 5 5-year option periods at the developer's option. There's escalators that are built in on an annual basis, typically 1.5% to 2% escalation on that initial base rent, for the 20 years. So it can, add up to a decent amount of revenue for the town. So once the developer has been selected, they work with the utility, in this case Unitil, to submit for an interconnection application. So they would do all of that. And once they're selected, now they're spending money on design and this application, which is part of the renewable energy program in the state of Massachusetts. Knowing that the lines have the capacity to handle the size of the designed solar system is critical. And the solar company, in this case Unitil, wants to make sure that everything is handled safely. So once they have the go-ahead, then the solar developer will also pay for an additional study for an electrical engineer to actually design, right down to the crossing the T's and dotting the I's, the system so that the solar generation facility will be safely part of the grid. So the point is, once that solar company is hired, they're going to be spending in the excess of $50,000 to $200,000 to get the program approved by the state. They would also have to go through the planning board to have the planning board issue a site plan for the particular project.
So they would go through the same process that any other array
That's correct. And typically, they're working with the utility first and making sure that they're going to be able to get that okay to be able to put that amount of solar into the grid. And then in parallel with that kind of leading the way, then they start going to the planning board to make sure that, public hearings to make sure all of the site plan is appropriate. If there's screening involved that needs to take place, meeting all the setbacks, of the town bylaws, et cetera.
Right. Probably conservation would need to be involved in it too. I would
Absolutely.
assume.
Yeah. Then they go into, project construction, a system of the size we're talking about in the 4 to 5 megawatts is typically gonna be 3 to 4 months when construction starts. So it's not, it's more the easy part of the program, it's the approvals and in both, through the utility and the town that take most effort. And then the operation, once the utility gives the go-ahead to be able to turn on the system, you know, the maintenance of the system is pretty much cleaning the panels a couple of times a year, maintaining the inside of the area and outside of the area, landscaping. So it's pretty mundane. The system is monitored remotely, and if any panel is not performing to capacity, the designers know that, operators know that, and they would go and check it out and make sure what's going on. And there'd be a security fence around the panels, around the system, to provide security for that. In some cases, panels have been stolen because it can be used, you know, for a roof, those kind of things. So typically there are security cameras, security fence, and security, you know, driving by occasionally. You know, not like any other valuable asset that you would want to take care of. So that's really a process that would be going through. That's probably it. One of the things about the project that we're talking about, Stuart, you want to talk, we need to go through the public-private partnership?
Yeah, I'll take that. You've gotten through the process, right?
Sure.
Okay. They're all funding. I mean, it's not a cheap project. So, that's where a lot of the funding concepts come in. But just before that, I want to go over something that kind of bridges a couple of concepts that are going to come further in the presentation. The electric system, as we know it, is shifting, it's changing. It's not so much the electric grid into the meter and then into the facility or the house or whatever else. Nowadays, they have what's called before the meter and after the meter. So when you're looking at, you know, behind the meter, as it's called, that would be whereas it goes from the pole and it doesn't even touch the meter. It's a separate private electricity for the facility itself.
For the end user.
For the end, they call them off-takers. That's the term typically given to the customer, the electricity customer in a solar type of a concept. It's the off-taker of the generation area. So behind the meter, and that ties into what's called a microgrid. Duncan was talking about one facility, it goes to the street, and then it becomes the electric company's electricity.
And go into the distribution system, not the transfer.
There's a different way of doing it also. You have hypothetically 2 sites on Meeting House, on Old Meeting House Road, DPW sites. Let's say you could find some land there that's underutilized. So you can now monetize it by putting solar on it. You have some land, small parcels of land by the water. 3 town parcels right near the water. That I don't know what you're using it for. If it's not being used, you might be able to put solar across that. Those can all be tied together in a microgrid. And what the microgrid does is it uses software, programming software to tie all the facilities together and then send it out to either a single off-taker, hypothetically Sterilite. Let's say, okay, Sterilite says, I love this, I want to use your electricity. Fine, they become a single off-taker, so it's all there. Or hypothetically, it could be your DPW facilities, this building.
The schools.
The school, something along those lines. The microgrid can then take it and move it other places. And that's the power of a microgrid. It has that ability to take it and almost have your own power plant.
Now, the one thing about the loads, oh, go ahead.
I just want to make sure, I'm kind of not sure I understand the microgrid. We all well, we hope you all understand, our bills are, town bills, everybody's bills are set up with the two section, right? Mine come to even, like $2.95 for my electricity and $2.95 for the poles that bring it into my house.
Right.
Your microgrid, you'll be able to get all your electricity and do it solar and get it down as low as possible. Does it get rid of the 300 to bring it?
It's just a difference. Those two sections would most likely be on your bill. And that's not my specialty, but hypothetically, the logic is that those two sections would still be on it because you're gonna be billed basically the same way. The distributor would now be the microgrid. The electricity provider would now be the microgrid. So whatever the negotiated values of those two sections would typically be 20% lower. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a fair, someplace in the 18 to 22, depending upon what's going on.
And that's below what you're gonna get it from your current place.
So Unitil is no longer in the spirit
Yeah,
with the mic.
if we don't go through there, it depends, we may use their power lines instead of having your own.
Yeah, if
There's
you're,
different ways to do it.
if you're not behind the meter, then you're net metering. So therefore, you're utilizing Unitil's lines. So Unitil is a utility for the load zone. The 4 towns and 1 city and 3 towns are part of the Unitil system. So this power can be distributed any place in the load zone, any third-party off-taker. Hospital, Fitchburg, any, city of Fitchburg's, different schools. I was gonna say Mount Wachusett, but that's not in Fitchburg, that's in Westminster, I think, or Gardner, right? So anyways, we have focused on Sterilite because of, they're the major, company, one of the major companies, obviously, in Townsend. And there may be a way to orchestrate a public-private partnership, with 3 parties involved. Town of Townsend, the solar developer that's selected, and then the off-taker, in this example, Sterilite. So the 3 would win because the town would be leasing, well, if it was on town-owned land that the solar developer would be paying rent on in the amounts I've already suggested. When we did the Mendon project, they ended up getting 35,000 per megawatt. We kind of thought they would be in the 20. We had really good competition between a number of different developers, and the price got bid up to 35. But for the sake of estimating and the discussion here, utilizing 25,000 per megawatt, we believe is a conservative number, and that would be both rent and the pilot. So again, 5 megawatts, that's 125,000 in rent for just one parcel. As Stuart's explained, if we could put multiple parcels together, you're just multiplying that together. What the demand that Sterilite would have, being a major production manufacturer, is probably substantial. We have reached out to them. We had some preliminary discussion. We really haven't reached to the right person yet, but we believe they would be interested in participating because they would be saving potentially 20% on their utility, their Unitil utility bill. They could get involved to a larger extent if they said, I don't want just 20%, I want 100%, then they could actually become the owner of the system and lease the land from you or lease the land from other people. So but that's another discussion. So, we're thinking 3 parties, the town rents the land, Unitil gets the power at a discount, the solar developer is able to make his or her money, from the project as solar developers do. So that is the concept. And when we first got started, we were certainly looking at the landfill. The issue with the landfill, as you probably know, is it's about 2.8 miles to get to the 3-phase power on Route 119.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an insurmountable amount of money, distance, if we came up with some additional money. Now, towns don't have that kind of money, but we believe the money coming down from the federal government, if we put the plan together, Townsend would have a great opportunity, or this project would have a great opportunity to get that type of infrastructure money to help make the connection between the landfill and Route 119. Having said that, by looking at the land off of Old Meeting House Road, literally across the street from Sterling, you know, we're right next to we're already at the three-phase on 119. So we haven't only taken it to the point of concept, but in talking with Eric, we wanted to, you know, get in front of you, get your thoughts. Is this something that you would like to see pursued, or it's a little too pie in the sky? I mean, again, we've done these for other public entities, and those projects are 5 and 6 years old. So, you know, the money comes in, it's not rocket science. It's, you build a project, you select the developer, the rents are paid, and everybody's kind of happy.
The land you're talking off Old Meeting, is that the land that the highway department has? Is that what we're talking?
DPW, yeah, it's listed as DPW property. So I don't know if that's yours.
And there's a plan.
We own the DPW property.
Okay, so then that's yours, and it looks like 2 large feet. I don't know if you're using it for storage or whatever else, or it's just underutilized land. We haven't had a chance to walk it yet to see, so you would know better than we would.
So I'm not, I apologize, I don't know the exact parcels that we're talking about.
Yeah, the plan is.
It's no further down the,
Yeah, there you go. So you see where Sterilite is and where the DPW driveway is.
it's like the first and second parcel off of, 119. And I did call Unitel directly, and I spoke to their distribution group, and they confirmed that from one end of Townsend to the other end of Townsend, off of 119, it's all three-phase on the pole.
On the pole.
On the pole. Right. So that's 100%. So any property along that road would be fine for three-phase. And I just wanted to read one, before we go to this, I wanted to read one thing, because funding is an issue. So the typical funding that they have out there, I mean, we're in an environment for climate change, greenhouse fundings from the feds. I mean, for the next 5 years or so, it's gonna be flush. But that money is gonna start dwindling down as municipalities are getting more sophisticated and actually searching it out. Okay, right now, the bigger play is the cities, they have people on their staff that search for that stuff. The smaller municipalities, it's harder. That's where we come in. We start getting people to help you find that. So that's one of the things that we bring to the table. So I just one thing I wanted to read to you, and this is just a clip, is the bipartisan, it's under where it says Townsend's three-phase electric. It's the second paragraph from the last. The bipartisan infrastructure bill names microgrids as eligible for funding within programs to improve transmission, electrify transportation, and improve rural and remote areas in the US. Townsend qualifies as a rural area, okay? And if you're looking to improve electrical transmission, like from the landfill to three-phase, that hypothetically, according to this, you should be able to look for funding for that.
Right, I think it's just putting together the request and being ready to get that request into the appropriate federal agencies to be able to get that money. Now, this particular piece that we're just talking about is only the funding for that three-phase extension from Route 119 to the landfill. The other properties that are along 119, that's not an issue. That money would be, all of the money from the project would be covered by the solar developer.
And also by bringing three-phase to other areas in Townsend, whether it's within your master plan or not, it opens the door up for more commercial utilization of those areas. So there's a potential there, for further growth in the future
I guess,
by what we're looking at right now.
I guess I would say that's true, because just like a sewer, if you have septic and then you can put a sewer to be able to bring business in, all the distance from the line now allows other parcels to be potentially developed, you know, with septic as opposed to, so it's the same theory with three-phase power. If we run three-phase, if we're able to run three-phase up to the landfill, there's, I don't know, the zoning and all that land, if there's any there that might be commercial or potentially future industrial, but, you know, that would potentially open that up. But we haven't looked at the zoning or anything like that.
And I don't know, I mean, am I wrong? Is Townsend considering a wastewater treatment plant for a limited use? No? Okay.
Not that I.
Not yet.
We have a water treatment.
Water
A water
treatment.
treatment. Oh, water.
That's what we're working on right now.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
guess-
we have, it's highly unlikely that we would go that.
No,
way.
I appreciate that.
Only because of the aquifer and where we're at. It's
Right.
right on water all through town. So.
Got it.
I guess my question I have, now is this project, I know Ross has been working on that area project, is this tying into that or totally separate?
Yeah, so the project that Ross is working on is community aggregation, which is where we would take the entire town and all of the electric bills from all of the residences and businesses in town and pool those into one big pool and go out to bid for
All
power
right.
to get it cheaper than Unitel. This project is a completely different animal. This is a solar field that if we do get a third party, whether it is a party like Sterilite or some other third party, the idea would be that the landfill or some other property if we found some, but if we're talking about the landfill in theory, that would be where the solar site would be located, and then the person who would get the power and the benefits of the power would be that private party, the private company that got it.
I just think.
Well, it could be Hannaford Plaza.
That's
it could be
correct.
Central Plaza, it could be
Anybody
anywhere.
that way.
you know.
But my big question would be, is I have no issue with the landfill area, but the land by the highway, that really is prime land for us as a community to maybe use that for something down the road. And I would hate to see that locked in, that it could never be expanded.
And that's an absolute correct statement. If you have a plan or potential of a future plan, you wouldn't necessarily want to put solar on it because it's going to tie it up for 20 or 30 years.
Right.
So,
And
I
that's,
totally agree.
you know, there's a lot of things that you may not know about that we're working on.
Right, absolutely.
Um,
That's what this is all about, the collaboration of knowledge right now.
So here's my understanding, and sorry for the counselor to come out of me, but what you're saying is that wherever we chose, let's say the landfill, because of the distance from 119, we'd have to get three-phase power out there. So we would have to find, the town's responsibility to find the funding for that, is that?
The developer, typically, they're not going to run that far. The numbers don't work when they have to run that three-phase. We would certainly talk to a number of potential developers, and again, that would all come out in the RFP. But I guess to your point, based on our knowledge, and I've done 17 or 18 of these things, if it's not on the street or within a quarter of a mile of street, meaning three-phase power, the developer usually moves on to a better site. We believe, as we've already said, with the federal government money that's coming down, they may be able to provide that money for that piece. The developer does his thing, and the government, the federal government, through the infrastructure funding, covers that one piece.
Right, and this is what I'm looking at.
Right.
Because I'm a process kind of guy.
Sure.
So we would then need to work with the feds to get that portion of it for three-phase.
That's correct. Submit.
That's
So
what.
to answer your question, it's a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is this segues very well into the public-private partnership.
Mhm.
Hypothetically, you go into a P3 agreement with a developer.
Mhm.
And the component that's yours is getting the federal funding, because a lot of the federal funding is to government entities.
Right.
They have a much better ability to get federal funds than the private sector. So that's where the P3 comes in, is you hold that component within the agreement Well, therefore, it will allow you, or hypothetically, you start an economic development group, you know, a quasi-official organization, and they seek the funding. And then they work with the developer.
Right.
So there's a lot of, it's a very creative way of looking for funding. And when you get further down the road is when you really start looking at the people to write the grants, look at the business structures, and look at how you want to make it work. Right now, we're looking for ways to give you the overview. But we're gonna have to dive down into the weeds of apparently in the future. And that's what we're at right
I mean,
now.
the public-private partnership is not a mandate for this project. The minimum would be the town, on town-owned land, putting out an RFP to the solar development, developers. And that's the key piece, because if they have the deal, then they can get to the grid, and Unitil allows them to bring their power to the grid, then they're gonna be renting the land from you for the 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So that's the simple piece. This piece about the Sterilite, that could be enhancing the project to the benefit of one of your key, employers.
And that's really what we're looking at. And that also determines, is it a 24-hour operation? Do you want to include storage into that? If it's just daytime, mostly daytime usage, then typically storage may not be economical. If you're looking at 24 operations, then the off hours when it's not light out, you may want to still have the
Like
battery.
that, Sterilite's gotta be 2 shifts, if not 3 shifts.
3 shifts.
Yeah.
3 shifts.
So that, those are some of the things that we will be looking at, who the off-takers are and how complex the solar project will be. That's when the engineers start getting in and we start talking numbers like, okay, do we want to do households? Do we want to do facilities? Do we want to do one facility? Combination of the town, and that has to do with the negotiation. Because if you want to get your electricity from it, you may give up a little on the lease and just do better on the cost of the electricity. So there's different ways to play it.
Well, I don't want to say the devil's in the detail, but there's a lot of details there that will work out depending upon what the town wants to do and what makes sense for the developer.
So what we're really looking for today is to give you the understanding of whether you want to go forward with this. And part of going forward with this is saying yes to the idea that you like it. And then the next is can we represent you?
Yeah, and on the representation, typically, again, because you're hiring a service, you may have to run an RFP. We're fine with that. We love competition. We don't see a lot of people doing what we do in this space. We've got great references. So if you have to run the RFP, then, that's fine. We can
help you with the RFP
look forward to that.
and then just send it out.
So really, today was really an informational meeting, get some thoughts in front of you. And as Stuart said in the beginning, this is just one area. Government services could look at we have a whole menu. We provided that information to Eric in another meeting earlier. And there may be some other opportunities that, you say, wait a minute, we like this one, but we'd like to look at some of these other things. But let's hold that for another time.
Well, I think this is food for thought. I thank you for your time in doing this. This is, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? No questions? We did have a discussion in regards to this beforehand, before you guys came in. This kind of clears up a lot that I have in mind. Do you have any questions?
No, I mean, the only thing I wanted to mention is, and I think it's not something I gloss over, is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that we would be getting out of the partnership is assistance in applying for that infrastructure money, which I think we would expect, that one of the challenges I think everybody knows from a small town is finding the manpower to apply, get the information and apply for these grants, find out how
That's
the
why we don't
grants
have,
work.
that's my only concern is we don't have the manpower to take and do that, to get that infrastructure.
Right.
So, I mean, if they were to say to us, we'll handle all of that, that'd get me a little different thinking, but for us to try to.
Well, I think that's what they're offering, is that
They are, but I'm gonna disagree with you. We do have the manpower, it's just that we've got grants now that we've gotta move forward on the project, that we got the money for.
Yeah, we got money for projects, and that's unfortunately, we don't have staff to do both.
Empowered, gotta be going
Yeah.
to
I mean, I think it
implementation.
gave us a lot to think about, but there's still a lot, I think, that we
Yeah.
still need to
Yeah.
research on our own. I think, like I said, are we talking Sterling, Hanford, are we talking the schools, are we talking, those type of things? I'd like to get a sense.
Could look at this
Where
microgrid
it
thing,
doesn't make
that's
sense.
a good idea too. We've gotta talk to town properties, there's a lot of different things.
Yeah, is there a place?
And that's where we'd like to collaborate with you, because part of our expertise is this brainstorming.
Mhm.
I mean, you understand what you want for your town. That's exclusive. We understand that. But we, like Duncan and I feed off of each other. That's why we like to do this. He says something, my mind comes up with something, and then we feed off of each other. That's what, we do active brainstorming all the time, even in these presentations. So that's where, when you say something, he's saying something, I'm coming up with the next part of that, and that's what we like to do.
Really understanding the town's real estate portfolio. And like the old meeting house park, that's untouchable, obviously. There's no way to, but there's a number of other parcels, as you alluded to, in front of the DPW, next to the DPW. Are those the right ones? We don't know. We haven't taken it that far.
Right.
So food for thought, like we said, and we appreciate the time that you gave us tonight to get in front of you.
Yeah, and I think that we need to have discussions, especially with the TA here, to find out what our next steps are gonna be. And then we can sit down and kind of throw out some of the other things that, because we have other opportunities that are there. We've got many different projects that have to have our attention.
Right.
And it does incorporate some of the other town lands that we have as well.
That's great.
Just to let you know also, and I appreciate what you just said about, divided time and everything else. I very much appreciate that. But there is lead time to get this to happen. So even though you may have other projects, if you go through at some point with the approval process, it kind of takes over because there's all the permitting that has to happen. So that's could be a year to a year and a half of just doing studies that you're not even involved with.
Right.
You just say, yes, I want this to happen. Then it happens to the point where we have to come back to you and say, okay, I need a permit for this.
And we're gonna continue to watch for federal information that's coming down. Eric's gonna see a lot of that, but there's so much of it coming down from so many different departments, to try to get this money to the local level.
Yes.
So if we see anything, we'll get to Eric.
And it's competitive also. So it's not like waiting, oh, we have a dollar for everyone. It doesn't work that way.
Great.
Now you should.
All right, gentlemen,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Right, we're all set with the Zoom. So let's jump right over to 2.2, discussion of Squanicook Meadows motorized vehicles and signs. James, is that why you're here?
James, stay away,
up.
James, good job.
It's here tomorrow night.
Yes,
I would just like to say also that Jess is here on Zoom. Just
I can add.
Jessica, long time no see.
I know, gosh, I love this. Good to see you guys.
24 hours, right?
If that, yeah.
Okay, so what do we have in regards to, what's going on over at Squanicook Meadows?
Okay, so,
We've had several complaints of dirt bikes coming into the property from the backside along the river. And also one instance where they came down the driveway where we had opened the gate for a game that was scheduled, and it was like 20 minutes after the gate was opened, father and kid get down on their dirt bike. They claim they couldn't see the signs. Now, Teza isn't responsible for anything beyond the soccer fields. But the people that hold the wildlife permits down there contact me.
Yeah.
So I am willing to be the steward and volunteer my time to add more signs and relocate existing signs that are, I feel are poorly placed, and I know Jessica would say the same, because we went down and walked it. But there's areas that need additional signage.
Jessica?
Hi. Yeah, so just sort of piggybacking off that, the signs that are out there now, say ecologically sensitive area, property of the town of Townsend, no motorized vehicles allowed, police take notice, violators will be prosecuted. It's a lot to read, and the signs are posted like all along the perimeter of the parking lot. So not even where these vehicles are entering. So yeah, I guess it's a matter of, should we move the existing signs, but they're all sort of cracked and warping and just faded from the sun. So, I mean, we could move the existing signs to better placed areas, or, you know, as budget allows, order some new signs. I did get a quote. And then the highway department has offered sign posts to use too. So, I mean, we're trying to save on money where we can. But yeah, just open for discussion. I mean, that's a very environmentally sensitive area, as you guys know.
Oh yeah, we've exhausted that particular, but I if this current signage is inappropriate, then we should definitely get signage up that's gonna be able to curtail at least the majority of it.
And it's not just
Do
right.
we have budget money for that?
Well, I mean, I don't know that we have anything specifically set aside, but it's the new fiscal year now, so I think do you remember what the quote was for, Jess? How much the quote was?
For 10 signs,
12 by 18.
it was $207. 12 by 18 signs that were, you know, had fewer words on it. Because if people are going in on a motorbike, they're not going to stop to read a book. So, yeah.
But there's also the issue with people going up and down the sandy slopes.
Yeah.
And we need signage on the top and bottom of that to say stay off slopes.
Yeah.
So I talked to Jim. Jim said he's got 12-foot signposts that he can cut in half. And if we do 10 signs of the no motorized vehicles and 10 signs stay off the
Do you
sandy
think 10
slopes.
signs is gonna be appropriate?
But I gotta dig the holes.
And how much, you know, you hope that people read them, you hope people respect them. You can't disclose too much information, and like Jessica said, people aren't gonna read a book.
Yeah. So I think that the cost of the signs is something that we'll find a way to absorb it in the budget.
So you're saying 20 signs at 12 by 18?
I will say that one of the complaints that James got was from a woman who lives on Horseshoe Drive, I think, and she went out and stopped a dad and his daughters on the bikes, and the dad was like, oh, there are no signs. You know, she said, you can't do this out here, and the guy came back saying there are no signs. So I think some people actually would take notice if there were signs that were more
And
properly
they didn't
placed.
keep riding, they left, and the first time it happened, we called the police, and we were able to find out who it was, and we talked to them, and I think it was an honest mistake. Yeah, because there is no signage, there is no delineation between town property on the backside of that and where it gets private land.
Right.
I mean, it's town property. We've had how many years, Chaz, you and I have been talking about this, and I think we have to protect whatever we gotta do, and if we have money, Eric, I think we ought to just allow them to get the signs
So we can
and
definitely
get it done.
And then one thing we did for our private property, we had the same issue with snowmobiles when we first moved in and everything, years ago, whatever, but Yeah, so they're only $25, I just met about, they're up to $30 now, but we did trail cameras. Did you think that
Who's
would be
gonna,
help?
I don't know who's gonna monitor them.
Yeah, that's.
It's a you know, I
That's a good point.
volunteer for so much as it is and I'll do this, but
I think the signs, it's a
Yeah,
start.
we
Signs.
start with signs. I think trail cameras aren't an awful idea. It's just
right.
unlike illegal dumping where somebody has a vehicle with a license plate that we can ID them on. Things like ATVs or dirt bikes, they're often almost impossible to identify the folks.
But it was as easy as following the tracks back to the house.
That's fair. Yeah, which is true. So I don't have a problem with us doing 20 signs out there. If Jim's gonna help you guys with that as well, I think that's what I like to see when everybody chips in for something like that.
Can Jim help him with, if they have a little bit of time, you know, 'cause it's town property?
Yeah.
I can ask, Jim,
Right.
maybe I can ask Roger.
Roger too.
I don't-
Roger's got
yeah,
some
I don't mind
help too.
I'm set up to do it. It's not a big deal.
All right, well, just try to.
The
thank you for that.
signpost right there is, you know, help and,
Yeah, so if we can get 20 signs out there, I mean, I think that might actually.
So Jess, would you be able to put together the signage? I don't think it's historic district out there, so we don't have to
We
get
have to get
permission
approval,
from them. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, I already drafted one to get the quote anyway. Yep, so they're pretty much ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can just put the order in and
Yep.
then, and hopefully within a couple of
So
weeks. we get it.
I can get a quote. I mean, do we want 10 no motorized vehicles, whatever, and then 10 stay off sandy slopes? Or, I mean, James, is that just a conversation you want to have offline?
What you feel is necessary, yes,
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
We don't need to make that decision here. You can talk to James, and I think that would be reasonable, but you guys know more than we do.
Yeah.
Okay,
we just want to follow the process.
Yeah.
No,
all right, so I can,
Sending
I will,
money, just get nervous.
we'll get quantities and then I can get a revised quote. And then I guess plan to maybe put it on the next meeting agenda, I
No,
think.
no, you just need to talk, just come and talk to me.
Yeah.
To you. Okay,
Just get it done.
And we have your permission to relocate existing signs.
Absolutely.
As the town
Yes,
signs,
yeah.
just,
Whatever you need to
Feel
do.
is- Yeah,
I was all ready to do it, but.
yeah, no,
No,
but I appreciate you following the process, that's kind of,
Thank you, guys.
that's important. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
very
Dennis.
much.
thank you.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're in meeting business now, 4.1, bylaw committee.
So unfortunately, I didn't have as much time as I'd hoped to work on this over the last week or so.
Okay,
So I might request that we put this off until the next meeting.
25th?
Yeah.
Yep, so we can table this to the 25th. Something that I've been looking forward to doing in a long time is surplus. If you guys looked in SharePoint, we have two surpluses. One, the first one is the, all the equipment that's been down in room.
Languishing.
Collecting dust. But I had asked Harrison, thank you again, Harrison, to inventory everything. We have meeting room one equipment that's down there, and there's monitors, and there's a typewriter up there that I haven't seen in 20 years. I bet you if you plugged it in, it would work. But I asked him to, it's an IBM Wheelwriter, 30 series. So we're just looking for an approval to surplus these items, and then are we gonna get rid of them, or how's that gonna work? How's that?
I think there's different possibilities of what we can do to get rid of them.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Carla
Yeah,
about if there's a way that the town can deal with it, or whether we're gonna have to,
yeah,
Taking
either
the
we
best
do
spot.
that, right. Well, or we could, I know that Devon's has some kind of electrical drop off, don't they, out there?
And they actually refurbished some of the presidential stuff at the county.
That's
so
what I kind of like to do.
Sure, yeah, we can investigate that too.
some of those bills are not that old.
Well, typewriter.
200 years, that might not, they might not be.
But yeah, I, however we do that, but I'll entertain a vote to surplus the items that, that are listed here.
I make a motion that we surplus the items on the surplus request forms, the various items from town hall, including the break room and the meeting room and the one.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. We don't need to list them, right?
No, they listed
So any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
aye. Hallelujah. Clean that room up.
Yeah, I'm.
Clean that up, Jess.
That was the hard drives. We gotta get rid of those now. The next surplus request, it comes from the library, and the library is doing the same thing.
Yes.
Are they
So
also
we
looking
had,
at
a lot of these came from the library, and so they moved the library stuff to here. So now we got rid of it, now they've got stuff that they need to get rid of.
I told the library that, we would work together to
Okay.
dispose of all the stuff the same
Good.
manner.
Yep. Which is good, and I looked everything over on this, and, I think we just need to get a motion and approve this as well.
Okay, make a motion that we approve this disposal of surplus property under $10,000 as posted on the document from the Townsend Public Library dated received June 28, 2020.
Second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So do I just sign this and give it to, while I get I'll do the signing on.
Yeah, we just sign that, and we'll take care of it.
Take care of it, okay. Good. Mandatory referral for 96 Fitchburg Road, that's 4.4. With, a lot of the, meetings that I've been doing with the, planning board, 96 Fitchburg Road has an application in for, 3 age-restricted, housing units. And, they're asking for a mandatory referral on that. Did you guys read the application for that? Any comments, any thoughts?
So the one that they also had they showed the map, I don't see it here, but I thought I saw it earlier, a map or whatever it's gonna look like.
There was one in there.
Very nice looking.
This is that parcel as you go down 13, it's on the left-hand side. It was a farm or something at one time, they had it was,
The pig that ate the person.
I didn't want to say that, but yes, yes, that one.
Don't think they're gonna put that on the sign.
But it's been split up into 3. I know that it was discussed last night in the planning board. I think they're going to do a site visit on that as well. My thoughts is that, we thank the planning board for all their efforts and we support however they wanna, if you're okay with that too.
Am I understanding, like, each of the units were like 2 houses, so was it 6 or 3? Like,
No, I think it's 3 units.
3 units?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, and they're up and down.
So they look like
The site plan,
side
yeah.
by each, as they say in Canada.
Side by each. It's one of those, extended colonials that started off as small and then it kept on being added onto.
No,
And then they've broken it up into 3 separate units according to the site plan. But again, it's something that the planning board needs to look at and I guess, approve as well. So I guess they're just looking for what we thought about it.
I always defer to the planning board.
Yep, and that's exactly what I want to do. So if you 2 are comfortable with me just putting in for that, I can do that.
That's already your expertise.
Catching up with my formal documents here. Okay, so I will go ahead and put in for the mandatory referral that will, this is the map right here.
Oh, okay, no, I was looking at something different, something else that came in. Okay, thank you. It actually had the dining room, living room section and for confused by it.
This one.
This is what I was thinking. It was-
Oh, that one, yeah, yeah,
So that's all, it's just a big house then, huh?
yeah, it's a very big house, 3, and we need the,
And they took, it's like 1, 2, 3,
Yep.
beside each other, okay.
Yep.
I got it. Mhm. So if they are side by each.
They are.
Side by each, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, 4.5 is a mandatory comment letter for the open space and recreation plan. I'm sure you guys read every single page on that. I did, actually. I thought it was very well put together. I did express to a couple of the members that I thought it was very well written. I mean, a lot of that does come from previous versions of it. It's not like recreating the wheel, but I was very happy to see that the CPA was in there, that they were looking at environmentally sensitive areas and working around them, which I thought was really nice. Having a plan, and it looks like this plan is going to be able to, they can start implementing, as opposed to just having a plan and put it on a shelf and nothing happens to it. So I thought that that was really, it was well done. So they're asking for a letter. How do you guys want to handle that?
So, as you know, it's 51, so I did browse through it, but it's 51 pages, so I certainly didn't, partake in the entire thing. What are they asking? I'm not very clear. They're asking for our support of the plan? What are they asking for?
Yes, and yes.
Okay.
What our comments, they're looking for public comments, what we would, if we see something that we wanted added to it, if we see something that, we feel is.
Something that you want to make sure stays, like,
Yeah.
that's kind of.
They're just, this is their public outreach, and I think that a lot of times in working in the various communities that I've had over the years, we ask for a public comment, we don't get it, and this is their way of bringing it up, which I think is good,
And this
We can-
came through the open space, right?
Yeah.
It's all been through.
Yeah, open space and recreation plan. We can say that if we wanna, do it individually and send in your own comments, that's one thing.
I'd like to just say I support, what they're doing and whatever, I'd like to make that very clear, but, they took the time to write 51 pages and I'd like to give the energy it's due, so,
Yep.
if we can, comment next meeting, I'll sure to read it between them, or
Okay.
just wanna do it individually.
Well, I can
however,
put something together and give it to Eric and you can distribute
just
it.
that it-
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Maybe the board, if you put something together and give it to me, I'll distribute it to all the members and you'll have time to, and hopefully we can.
Everybody will
Okay,
get
and
it.
I'll have my comments before.
If you ever
next
have,
meeting.
anything that you need to add, then I can put everything together and send it back out, and if everybody's okay, hopefully we can fire it off for the next meeting.
Okay, so we can do that. So I'll go ahead and I'll work something up this weekend, get it into you. So Monday morning, it'll be in your mailbox.
I will not be here on Monday morning.
That's right.
He is going home.
I went to Virginia for
Hasn't
the
been
first
home
time in
in so
4
long.
years.
Don't forget to come back.
Yeah, it's up to my parents. They're the ones that have to drive me to the airport.
Maybe they might send you right back.
I can arrange that. We have to send somebody down there to get you.
They'll be okay.
I think you will too. 4.6, discuss and review the maintenance garage and team equipment.
There's nothing in the folder, so I don't know.
This is more of a verbal discussion than a documentary discussion.
Documentary, good word.
Yeah, so this is here to kind of as an update to the board. Based on conversations that Joe and Rob and I had, I guess it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
As folks know, for a long time, the team equipment had been down in the the kind of town garage behind town hall. In an effort to kind of get a better utilization of space, I think Joe had the idea, and it's something that I think that Rob and I completely supported, which was to see if there was a better place to keep the team equipment. Now the team is under fire, maybe they can move to a fire facility as opposed to being in the town garage. And I'll give Joe credit. I was skeptical that it would happen as quickly as it did. And it happened very quickly. So quickly, in fact, I think I almost missed them actually taking it out. I just happened to look outside, I was like, wait a minute, there's a truck taking stuff out of the garage. But yeah, so the idea would be to provide, now that the facility is getting the truck, it's gonna provide a covered space to store the facility's truck out of the weather, to provide some longevity for that vehicle, and allow a larger space for any kind of facilities, kind of outdoor work projects to occur in the garage. Instead of, right now, there's one very small bay that's dedicated to kind of everything that wasn't a vehicle or a trailer. And now I think we're gonna be able to expand that to utilize some more space in the garage for facilities to have some.
So the team equipment is out.
Team equipment is out. We did discuss several things about the town car as a part of that, but the town car is the next thing on the agenda. So if we want to just move right into that, we can.
Well, I want to finish up
Yeah, I want to
the,
get a sense of what's still in the garage.
So right now, the town vehicles in the garage, there's a space now where the trailers were for the facility's truck.
right.
There's also, all of the kind of the space for the equipment, facilities equipment, the mowers, and the
Snow blowers.
snow blowers and all the stuff that get used around town, the equipment in one of the bays. And then there's a kind of a workshop area.
Good, that's what I was wondering. So he has a workshop area out there.
Yeah, and I think the challenge that we were trying to solve was that because those team trailers were there, the workshop area and the storage space for all the equipment had kind of been jumbled into the smallest bay. And this allows us to expand that out and let him use a larger bay for the workshop area. And then it should allow us for kind of more. It also, it reduces the number of entities that need to have access to that building, so it makes it more secure.
Yes.
And like I said, providing a space for the vehicle that we're about to spend town dollars on out of the weather, I think just provides us some more longevity for a truck that, quite frankly, is likely to not get a ton of miles. So if we can keep it out of the weather too, it should allow us to keep that truck around for a good long time.
Okay, because I know that there's a whole series of moves that you and I had talked about.
Yes.
Meeting room one is the main thing, because we are coming up on having to free that space up for the IT equipment.
Yep.
So moving him out, the idea that there needs to be some space where he needs to go. I know that the highway department has been, I know that I had a conversation in regards to that as well.
And I have two, yes.
The administrative assistant is for both facilities and highway, and what perfect place to have them up there so that they're both together with the same administrator, I think is a perfect thing. So how soon are we to be able to get that going?
Well, I'm meeting with Jim and Rob about the details of that later this week.
Okay, good.
So I hope to have effectuated that before the next board select meeting.
Okay. Because we're ready to start.
Yes, things are in motion.
Okay, good.
And
Now we
so-
can talk about the car.
Now we can talk about the car. So,
What'd you like to talk about that building?
Okay.
We're not done with that building yet, are we?
What building?
So, the right here, the garage,
Oh,
so we
you
said.
need a workshop too?
I just want to make sure we're all clear as to what's gonna happen with that building. I know Rob's had some conversation that he said to me, and I think Eric, you were involved, that he really wants to get the water department building in West Townsend, once they move out, to be his maintenance shop. I think what we've just done here, and for the fire department and TEMA to work the way they did to open that facility up, I think I wanna make it very clear that that is going to be the end of where he's gonna go. That's gonna be his maintenance shop. And I just wanna make sure if that's what we're all thinking and that's what we're gonna do.
Well, I'm doing a little research in regards to and this is further on down the road anyway, as far as the water department is concerned, once they move over to the new facility, that is something that would need to be vetted out through town properties to find out what their thoughts on what we should do with that. And then from there, we would have a discussion with selectmen, would have a discussion on what we thought would be the next steps. And I know that I have had some ideas and
Yeah, I think we all have ideas, but I don't think we can just determine that it's definite, this is a definite. We have,
Oh, yeah.
a thing, we have, like you said, we have town properties to go through, we have planning, master plan. all those
feasibility,
things.
there's all that kind of
All those
stuff.
things
I-
before we.
I think so right now, based on my last conversations with Dave about the schedule for the water treatment plant, they're talking about a move-in date in November of 2024.
Right. So
So we're talking about 18 months that we're talking about, and so it does make sense to start thinking, especially, over the next year or so, I think getting in front of town properties and have the board think about,
and I'm kind of making sure that there's no squatters' rights here. You know what I
No,
mean?
it's like when the corner office opens up at work, like everybody
Don't let
thinks
anybody in it, so they don't think it's
everybody,
theirs.
everybody thinks it's gonna be theirs and.
I've listened to, he needs a place, so if we discuss this car next, so the only thing that would be in that entire building would be the senior van that's in
oh,
there,
that's right, I apologize, the senior van takes one.
okay?
Right.
I was trying to remember why there wasn't another full bed.
And so for me, I'm gonna go through you, Mr. Chair, or to you, that's his workshop, set it up, do what he needs to
Well,
do.
the other thing that we do have to contemplate, and it hasn't really come up, is we now have a second senior. van. We need to have a parking space for that. And so that's another question we have to do. Now, my hope is eventually, if we get the canopies at the senior center, the vans can be parked under the canopies and out of the weather that way. But that's not happening right now, and so they have looked for that, so that's another.
And everything, like you said, things are always changing, and VFW is trying, DAV, I mean, is trying to get a van in Townsend too, and they're gonna be looking, trying to hopefully find. but-
Or if it's
Selling
park anywhere.
And too, we're trying to get.
Everybody wants a van.
So I think that it's important for us to kind of
Try to say.
vet all these uses and make sure that we're using the properties in the best interest of the townsfolk and the taxpayers and the town entities.
We are keeping that, I see this as one of those mosaics that we used to have when we were kids and slide little tiles.
Right.
Slide little tiles around, make sure,
It's just no,
make a picture.
no falling
But the
dead,
picture is, it's always gonna change, so
Right.
it doesn't, we're not gonna find
no
it.
dead.
So,
So the town vehicle.
Yeah.
So prior to my arrival, the town made the determination that they were gonna rehab that vehicle and, set it up for use for all of the individuals in town hall, the employees in town hall, that they need to use it for business use. And then we were told staff multiple times, if you have a conference, if you're going on site visits, you should be using that vehicle and not putting in for mileage. The challenge is that the vehicle is not being utilized.
Right.
And that comes with a couple of different challenges. Number one, it's a hybrid, and so not using hybrids is not great for the battery life. Number two, we're paying insurance on it at the tune of almost $600 a year. It's like $573 a year.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to have a conversation about whether that's the best use of a town resource, or do we try to dispose of it in some fashion and turn that around into some sort of value for the town? So for instance, there's a potential, deal in place to get a used Ford pickup truck for facilities from Townsend Ford.
Townsend first, okay.
They submitted deals that include a trade-in of the Fusion. So there's one without the trade-in and there's one with the trade-in, just to find out kind of what they would give. What they offered is roughly in line with what the kind of the online resources say is trade-in value for that car with those miles. And so if the board thought that that was so for instance, it would take a vehicle that was gonna cost us $38,000 and knock it down to $27,000, which means we don't have to borrow as much money for our as part of the capital plan.
And I'll just give you a little update. We had a conversation, I said I would find out because me and you looked up the price of that.
Yes.
And the price was there and we were a little concerned it was a little lower. So they were willing to even change that number from the 11,000 to 11,700. So that's a tremendous, we can save a bunch of.
That's what Kelly Blue Book says the trade-in value of that car is. It was 11,700.
So they're giving us the trade and knocking it off the price of the truck.
So my only concern, it's just to throw it out there, just to ask it, is there anything by having that hybrid car listed as a town vehicle, did that have any impact or will it have any negative impact on our green community standard?
It's you, I'm not a left field with that one.
Wow.
No, I mean, that's a good question. I mean,
We get a lot of money from this.
I know.
I think not having a hybrid in our fleet, we're not replacing it with something.
Right.
This truck is a separate purchase that we're gonna do with or without the
Well, see,
disposal
that's
of
how
that
I'm
hybrid
thinking, because
vehicle.
you're trading it in and putting
Yeah,
it
but this
off,
is
which uses a lot more.
We are not, so the truck and I think it's important for everybody to know how the truck purchase was happening regardless of the town vehicle issue. We were gonna add that truck to our fleet.
Right.
But
We had already voted, it was voted in.
it was voted into the capital plan and then, and this would allow us to dispose of an asset
So,
that
yeah, we
that's,
just have to make sure our documentation doesn't
Sure.
show we took a high.
we traded in a hybrid on a
Like
gas
a
guzzler,
hybrid,
no.
it's getting
Um,
100 miles to a truck that's getting 5.
Yeah, but the last time the hybrid came out of the fleet was September of last year. That was the last time it was used,
See,
right?
Well, I think.
Yeah,
It
really?
got used in August and then once, it's been used once
Yeah,
since
really.
last August.
Yeah, been used once since last August. And I think I was on the board when we decided that. I think Chaz, you were on
Yep.
also.
Yep.
When we took and said, well, we'll give it a year, see what
That's
it,
what we said. when
we
did
said
it.
we'll give it 1 year, and if it's used all the time, by all means, use it.
Yeah.
But as you stressed, and me being in the automotive industry my entire life, that car sitting there is doing no good. We start using it and now we're gonna have problems. We're gonna have great problems from it.
Yeah.
The battery lives are not really that long. If that battery's going that thing, that's,
Yeah.
could be up to $10,000 to $12,000 to replace the batteries.
It's one of the things that I did say, which is one of the challenges about having a vehicle that's a pooled vehicle is there's no one person who thinks of it as like, I can use that car.
Right.
Everybody has to think of it as a special occasion because they don't use it regularly. And so I think it just suffers from, if it's raining outside and pouring, you're running out to your own car and you're not trying to go over and get into so for instance, Beth had signed up to take it to a conference, but she was leaving from home. And so we've allowed people to take it home as long as they're driving directly to the conference the night before. So they leave, take the car home, drive to the conference, then come back, but she forgot. She went out and got in her own car, went home, and the next morning she's like, I'm not driving to Townsend to get the town vehicle, I'm driving back when the conference is in the opposite direction. So I just think there's some challenges with it for being a super kind of useful for a town with the limited staff that we have and the
Yeah.
limited number of uses.
So how do we move forward? What would we need to do as a board to take and say, let's move forward with that truck at the Ford dealership?
We'll talk,
Yeah.
have we called them, talked to them, what's the?
Oh, yeah, we've
We've
multiple
been
times.
there.
Oh, okay.
Eric's been with me.
This is at Townsend Ford.
Yeah, I was in Townsend Ford today talking to
Joey, Tommy,
Tommy. We got in the truck, started it up,
Tom.
you know, we talked about the Focus, about the Fusion. So this is, and they sent over, a couple of quotes for the truck. Like I said, one with a trade-in,
Have the
one
truck
without a
there?
trade. Yeah, I was.
So
I had
why
started
don't we
up
just
today.
execute this? and-
So I think what would need to happen is we need to have a vote to surplus the
The car that traded in.
Fusion.
Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion.
What was the value of it?
With a value of a traded value of $11,700.
Hold on, I couldn't get technical. I thought you couldn't surplus anything over 10,000. I thought you said the value was 7,000,
No, the value of the vehicle is not 7,000. It's 11,000.
right? I thought you couldn't surplus anything over 10,000.
We surplus it,
I'll have
or
to
do we
check.
do we just take and use it as a trade-in? I mean, we don't have to surplus it, it's a
Well,
town
we
vehicle.
have to
dispose of it.
take it off
We have to
of
dispose
town
of it.
books. We
Yeah,
have to
but that's
take it
what
off.
we would do, we'd say, okay, we're gonna take it off the books, we're gonna trade it in towards another town vehicle.
That's what surplus is though, Joe. When we surplus it, it says we're taking it off the books and we're
We
putting it to
Give it
some,
away or something,
yeah,
Oh, we're not giving it away.
no, we have to.
Am I incorrect?
No, that's a very good point. So,
Is my hat, is it showing?
I think it's more than that, but
Maybe I'm wrong.
maybe I'm wrong too.
Yeah, hope I'm wrong.
Maybe we can surplus the front half today and then on the 25th.
Surplus the car and then surplus the wheels.
10,000 and then the wheels and the engine.
Yeah, right.
Well, even if we surplus it, they say we surplus it at $10,000 and just change the number of the truck. It's irrelevant. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but I just,
So instead of the truck being the 37.8, make it, so the numbers are all gonna be the same no matter how we do it.
sure. I don't know if it pertains to vehicles either.
Okay, why don't we just make a motion that, why don't you do your time? That we confirm we can surplus it, if we can.
yeah, so I was looking at the thing, I was like, no, I have to do the next two things too. So I'm not gonna be able to say, you guys can talk and I'll,
Have we surplus other vehicles before?
I remember we surplused like a plow or something, remember?
Oh, we surplus trucks, surplus fire trucks, we've done.
Fire trucks and all that kind of
No, and they have to be over 10,000, right? You can't get a fire truck up.
I haven't gone out to buy one. All that time on the town vehicle use policy.
Yeah, we did spend a lot of time to work on that, but that's okay. If we gave it the best shot to take and if they could use it, they use it. I mean, that's why we did it. But if it's not being used, especially a hybrid, not a smart thing to do to keep that
I
going.
like the idea that facilities is finally gonna get a truck.
Yeah.
So that we can cut down on that transportation
Right?
money. I also like the fact that it's a good price for the truck. I also like the fact that we can take a very underutilized, piece of equipment and reduce the price
Yeah,
on that, which is not, that's not, what would be the total price on it, roughly?
oh, hang on, I got it right here, so, hang on. So, This is what he sent. So the truck was 37,795. They said 11,000 for it, but they changed that to 11,700. All right, so that would make that what? Who's gonna do the quick calculation?
So 26,3.
26,300.
26,344.
So instead of spending 40,000, we're gonna be down to 26,000. That's saving the taxpayers money. That's huge. And that's what we gotta do. We've got to save money here.
I agree.
So. Yeah, so that is the number in the statute.
10,000. So how do we go about doing it?
We would have to, either have a sealed bid or a public auction. Or dispose of something greater than $10,000. And, I need to check to see whether or not, I need to check to see whether or not that's something we can do without town meeting vote.
But is it possible if the 10,000 is the limit? So we surplus it at the $10,000. So instead of them say they're giving us 11,700 for the car, they're gonna say it's only 10,000, but then lower the price of the truck. If that would work,
I think the challenge of that is, you know, the law is about something with a value of $10,000 or more. And so how can we say something, how can we, as the board say,
Because Blue Book is over the 10,000.
the Blue Book's over $10,000 and they offer just more than $10,000 in trade, how can the board take a vote that says it's only for $10,000?
So how about we just,
Have me investigate it and figure it out, and then, you know, it may be that these have to be two separate transactions. They don't have to happen at once.
Is there a way
Maybe-
to get an exception and say the Bluebird value is 11,000, but because it's not used, it's dying, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? You know, the Bluebird value might go like this, that it doesn't meet the standard.
that's, would be part of the evaluation. I mean, so the reason why this law exists is to keep municipalities from giving away town stuff to people for more, you know,
Right.
that is worth a lot of money for less than it's worth. And that's the whole reason why that statute had that number in it. So I don't think there's a compelling reason why we would have to do this right now, when we have the money set aside to borrow, and what we could do is if we need to dispose of that car, we can figure out the way to dispose of the car in a separate transaction, and then just say, we're gonna vote to appropriate that money, to ask to appropriate that money to pay off the debt for the
what's
truck.
the value of the truck?
so if we don't trade the truck in, the car in,
It's a little less than, there's like 37,800 or 37.
Which is well under the
37,795.
40,000 that's been voted on. So
37,900, and then maybe I can talk to them, and say, look, we're gonna buy the truck at that price, but it's gonna take us a little bit to do whatever legally we gotta do to figure out how to do this, and then once we get that, then will you honor that 11,700?
Yeah, I mean, we will, so if we have to go, the first thing I have to determine is whether or not there has to be a vote of town meeting to dispose of something greater than $10,000.
correct.
That's the first thing I have to ask, because if that's the
If
case,
we wait 6 months, it might only be worth 10,000, right? I mean, they
by the
don't
time it's
have
town
some-
meetings, it's only gonna be worth $9,000, so. And so if that's the case, we obviously, I think we should just untether the two transactions, because I think we're not gonna, I don't think it makes sense to wait that long.
So I think we should just buy the truck.
Buy the
Yeah,
truck, I
because
get
we
that,
have the money to
but-
buy the truck, just.
but try to keep them on the hook to get the money.
Well,
See what I'm saying?
I hear
If we can work
But the
around.
good thing
cheaper
is,
ones or-
if it's worth that much, the idea is we would put it out for bids
And hopefully
and
get
say,
that.
who wants this vehicle? And whoever gives us the most money, we just take that check, whether it's Townsend Ford or somebody off the street who says, hey, I'll give you 12 grand for it. You know, I mean,
And we don't care.
we don't care.
All right, so why don't we just take and make a vote to say tomorrow we'll just buy that truck? It's under the 40,000.
It's already approved.
It's already approved.
Yeah, so
We don't need a vote.
To purchase the truck is already approved, and we can go ahead and do that, and then if the board wants to take a vote to have me investigate disposals of the car.
Yeah.
Then, I don't even think you need to take a vote, I think I have a consensus of the board that.
Yes and yes.
Yes, and yes.
So then I will
There's
go
some
ahead and
kind
do
of
that and figure out what we
exemptions
need
you
to
can
do.
have for non-use of the vehicle, just make it worth it.
Well, we'll attach something that's worth negative money.
Here comes my least favorite thing. 4.8, review approve municipal relief transfers.
Yes. So,
He's smiling.
I'm not thrilled, but gotta do what you gotta do. So there is you have a stack of municipal leaf transfers. The bulk of these should be relatively non-controversial. So I would start with the top one. I think everybody has the stack and they all should be in the same order because I. So the first one is a request from the town clerk. It's a very minimal amount. This is because of the number of elections, early voting, but primarily because of the recount that had to happen in the state rep race. There were hours that had to be, that were put in and billed, not just to staff, but also to the volunteers who were here for the recount. Or they're not volunteers, the poll workers who were here for the recount had to get paid. And so it's only $650 to cover that. So it's a very minor transfer. It's coming from a town clerk line, where they save some money on their, in their professional services.
Oh, okay, so it's just like a real.
Yeah, they're moving it from their professional services line to one of their salary lines. So it's within their department.
So we need a vote on that?
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a vote on each one of
On
these.
each one of them, yeah.
Are we doing it all at the end or one at a time?
We should do it one at a time as we go forward.
So which?
And I think you can just refer to it, for the town clerk's office for $650. That way you don't have to get to the account numbers.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the request for transfer of appropriations for the amount requested of $650 to be transferred to the general funds.
No, it's to the town clerk's office.
Oh, I'm sorry, to the town's clerk office.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Right?
Aye.
But this one is an odd one in that it came out of order, and the FedCom's already approved it, so once you sign it, it'll go forward.
That's all I have to do is sign it?
Yeah, yes, you would be signing for the action of the Board of Selectmen. If you just want to sign, we can fill out the rest. Once you go forward.
I just want to do the one that Sabrina put together for me.
Sabrina didn't have these didn't exist until, these didn't exist until 5 o'clock today.
Keep going?
Yep.
Make a request for transfer of appropriation for the amount of $5,000 to be transferred to police expenses for particular supplies, gas.
So this is the first of a couple of transfers for the police department. When we were in town meeting, we transferred a large sum of money into the facilities energy account, knowing that there were going to be other energy lines in the town that were going to suffer because of pricing. The gas line is one of them. So the gas prices that went up over this fiscal year really hit the police department hard. So so $5,000 was to cover their.
I second your motion, Teresa.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I make a motion to request for transfer appropriation, the amount of $5,000 to be transferred to police wages / training from facilities and energy.
In a second, then we can discuss it.
I have discussion I'd like to do, so somebody second.
Second.
There you go.
And you can start, but
So, this past year has been a hefty one for new, FY23 was a hefty one for new employees for the police department. As Teresa and Chaz can testify, we had multiple times we had, the new hires came in this last year. And so the training line was overburdened. There wasn't enough funds set aside for training for the amount of academy entrance training that we had to perform in the town in the last fiscal year. So that's why what this $10,000 is to cover. So this is the first one.
$5,000.
I'm sorry, $5,000 is to cover.
so my question has to do, how in the world will we have extra money in facilities energy? We never have extra energy money.
Because we transferred a large amount of money in free cash into facilities energy.
Yes.
And then in December,
Put a bunch in.
we got signed up for
We're
the
not gonna use
town.
it all?
Well, no, we covered what we thought, but then
Okay.
Yeah, that was supposed to happen in December. And then
Okay.
later on in December, we got our
the aggregation.
aggregation for town
Oh,
accounts. And so
okay.
our charges went down over the latter course of the year.
Thank you very much.
So that is that. So there does need to be a vote.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I make a motion that request for transfer of appropriations, the amount requested is $40,000 to be transferred to fire communications and to be transferred from wage per diem.
So this is an internal fire transfer. It is going from one fire account to another fire account. Gary had saved money on the per diem firefighters this year, and so had some overages and expenses. They're already covered. This is internal to the fire department.
Second.
What exactly, can you give me a general idea what these communications, $40,000 are, what type of things? Is it for the station or is it for the trucks, or do you know?
This is part of charges coming out of both equipment for the stations, but also in relation to the new communication center.
Thank you.
Regional dispatch.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Make a motion that request for transfer of appropriation in the amount of $42,000 to be transferred to MIS professional services, to be transferred from veterans other services.
So this is the first of 3 transfers into the MNS line. As I think Jazz can tell you, the MNS line was significantly under budgeted for FY23. And, you know, I think it's fair to say that the members of the Board of Selectmen who were a part of the board for the bulk of the year were informed as we went along that the account was in the deficit. We knew we were gonna have to come up with about $70,000 to cover the deficit in MIS.
We had licensing issues. Recently, we had a lightning strike that we had to work on as well, so.
And we also made the determination that we were not gonna take it from free cash.
Right.
We were gonna try to cover it from already budgeted funds.
Right.
So there's, you know, $60-something thousand sitting in free cash. We could have tried to use to plug this gap, but instead we
wanted to leave that in free cash.
yes.
What services are the veterans going to not be funded because of this $42,000?
Well, this is just what's left over from all the the veteran services that were required in FY '23. So this is not, we're at the end. There's a whole other bucket of $75,000 that's going in for FY '24 that they have access to now, but they didn't spend all of the,
They didn't spend
Right.
it, this is unspent.
yeah, this is all unspent money. All this, and let's be clear, these are all for FY '23.
Right.
And their expenditures are done. So the money that we're transferring was not gonna be utilized.
So you made.
Leave no money on the table.
Yeah, I know, I'm gonna tell those, but to get to work next.
Well,
year.
we set aside a large pool of money for the veterans, so we make sure that we don't run out during the year.
Right.
However, we don't have a lot of veterans that are utilizing that pool right now because they don't need it. It's a good thing, really, and,
Yeah.
you know.
I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, no, that's a
We're
good,
it's up
I'll
for a
second.
vote.
I'll second your motion, Teresa.
Okay, and then all those in favor?
Aye.
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 To request for, I make a motion, request for transfer of appropriation to the amount of $20,000 to MIS professional services for fire wages per day.
And again, this is on what we just talked about.
Second.
yeah, so this is the second of 3 transfers that are going into the MIS department from a line that had excess.
Motion is made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I make a motion that request for transfer of appropriation to the amount of $15,000 for the MIS professional service to be transferred from unemployment compensation.
Second.
Again, this is the third of those 3 transfers for MIS.
And then we're good for the year. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I make a motion that request for transfer of appropriations the amount of $1,403.24 for injury of duty claims from TEMA. Travel mileage.
Yeah, so the TEMA didn't have any expense, oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Sorry, I apologize. TEMA didn't have any travel expenses over the past year, so there was an unutilized line, and we had a slight overage and an injury on duty claim line, and this is just gonna zero it out, so that's the exact amount that we needed to zero that out.
It says $96, right?
That's what's
No,
remaining.
that's what's remaining.
We're transferring $1,403.24.
That's the remaining balance.
That'll be what's in there.
Yeah, no, not much left, but we don't need it because.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Request for transfer of appropriation, the amount of $7,000 to be transferred to highway, snow, and ice equipment rental from land use wages, LU coordinator.
Second.
So this is a late bill that came in after we had set up the warrant for town meeting.
Which 7,000 is not
Yeah,
bad, we did
not
pretty
bad.
good there.
Well, we
Yeah,
did
no
transfer
snow this
262,000 at town meeting, but yeah, so yeah, this is an extra $7,000 in snow and ice that we just need to fund for that, or otherwise we're going to pay next year.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I make a motion that request for transfer of appropriations, the amount of $45,000 to be transferred to fire energy from wages per day.
Second.
So this is the second of the 2 fire transfers. Just like the other departments in town, fire had a really high energy bill for the year. They had extra excess money in wages, so this is an internal fire transfer.
Well, and I think that extra money is coming out of the extra out of that per diem because the way they're running that department so efficiently.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, it's very clear that the way they're in the department is saving the town
Saving money.
money. They're not going over, they're not coming and asking for extra money in overtime. Gary has not asked for a single dollar.
I haven't
Extra?
gasped, signing the warrant for that.
So I mean, the fire department is running meticulously. He does, part of how Gary runs that department is, if he sees an excess line, then he's trying to save money in salary so he can fund the expenses of the department and not come and ask us for extra money.
Great.
Even though the expenses are going up.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And last but not least, sorry.
Make a motion for request of appropriation amount of $3,000 to be transferred to Board of Selectmen other charges from Board of Selectmen wages.
Second.
So I wish that I had a really, really compelling story about this. Quite frankly, what happened is the cost of paper over the last year has gone through the roof, and every department in town hall ran out of money to pay for paper. So the Board of Selectmen's office was kind of rationing paper that we were paying for.
That's why all the boxes were in there.
I'm not kidding. This is literally excess cost for paper. It's not sexy, but it is what.
It's what it is.
So, and the $3,000 is likely to be significant more than what we need. There just may be some outstanding bills that I'm not aware of, so I didn't want to have to come back again later on this week and try to nail that down.
To do that, so good job. All those in favor?
Teresa Moore, yes?
Aye.
Aye.
Nancy.
We'll get these over to Don, and the FinCom has a meeting on Friday. I'm gonna try to meet them on the beforehand to go.
I think I did all these right.
We can finish filling them out, Chaz. As long as you're John Hancock's on it. That's all that really matters.
I'm very like that.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
That's all right.
All right, 4.9. Review and approve collective bargaining agreements.
So, in front of you, you have a proposed collective bargaining agreement that I gave you from, that was the one that Teresa was sorting out. I have an extra one if you need it, Chad. Starts with 3470 Townsend Police Union at the very top.
I think we put it at the beginning of this, Jazz.
Everyone wonders where all the paper went.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're taking it. You ought to donate to that cause.
This is all gonna be put on the.
One of these days, we're gonna not let any paper be in front of you. It's all gonna be electronic. You're gonna have to look at it on your SharePoint.
We're working on it.
So I realize this is a very lengthy document, so it's gonna take us a few minutes to go through it, but I think it's important for you guys to know that, you know, the kind of the depth of how we went through with the police union. The police union is a union we've been negotiating with longest. Ross started negotiating with the police union before I started, so the first negotiation happened, I think in April of last year. April of 23, April 22. So we've been negotiating for 15 months. I want to say that, you know, the members of the union have been, you know, very good to work with. And the police are, you know, really important in town, and they're kind of important union for us to deal with. So, I'll go through this kind of page by page. If I have any questions, just, you know, let me know as we're going along. And a lot of this is changed, is language changes that don't necessarily have a monetary impact on the town, but they were negotiating forces, so they have to be in that. So on the first page, the first change is Article 26, or sorry, 22 -08, which is we are going to be offering a voluntary wellness incentive to the police. I know that, so Massachusetts, despite the fact that we have, certification at the state level, still does not have a physical fitness requirement for police officers, post academy. So in an effort to make sure that we have a fit force, we're gonna be offering an optional, fitness standard, an optional fitness test that, anyone who passes it will get $1,000 bonus to basically stay in shape. This is part of kind of our wellness incentive, building the gym. You know, we're trying to work on sick, different kinds of sick policies so that people aren't coming to work sick. I mean, this is another kind of one of those steps where we're trying to make sure that we're having wellness be one of our goals. So the important language is the last one, where the parties agree that both the preparation for and taking the test are voluntary, and so if they get injured, they're not going to be eligible for workers' compensation as part of that. So that's the. Sure.
I'm just curious, how is this, the test are voluntary, right?
Yes.
And it's gonna be administrated by the police department, or they're just gonna come in and say, I did 20 push-ups, I want my dollar back?
No. It's the Massachusetts Municipal Police Training Committee Recruitment Fitness Standards testing.
Right, yeah, no, I pulled them up.
So we're going to, we're once a year, we're gonna say, okay, here's your
You're gonna
chance.
run them, you're gonna have them.
We're gonna run them.
Okay.
And you have to meet and so it says officers completing with the 30th percentile and ROC and children's standards for their age group to receive the bonus. That is the standard that is in place for the academy.
Right, that's this one.
Yeah, so it's the same, so we're testing with the academy standard. Article 26, the next one down, we removed some confusing shift change language. And just put in shift bids annually in the month of April to begin on July 1st. This is something that the union wanted, was to have annual shift bidding, and allow us to do it in such a way that the financial impacts would be known prior to town meeting. So that's the what we're having in April. The following days shall be recognized as paid holidays. This is just, all that happened was Juneteenth got put in there. And everything else got shifted down, but, so we just added Juneteenth, which, we did across the board for everyone. The rest of that language is already in the agreement. The next page is the Article 13, the salary schedule. So this comprises, because the police officers are not on a grid, they don't get steps as our regular employees do, they received a 4% increase. Whereas the rest of the employees are getting a 2% step and a 2% increase. So it's 4%, so it's equivalent to what the other two unions assigned have. And so all these numbers over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages up until page number 16 of it's the only page, it's the only one with the number on the bottom. Anyway, Article 13.13 is new, but all these other ones are simply the implementation of that across the shifts, because everything in all the shifts and all the ranks at the department is based upon the base level officer, day officer. And then you get a premium if you're on your second shift, you get another premium if you're on the night shift, and then sergeants are a certain percentage higher than the highest paid officer. So all these, the other things that are reflected in those next 8 pages are just the implementation of that 4% at the officer level. So the next one we have is Article 13.3. This is providing, starting not this coming fiscal year, but the following fiscal year, for some relatively minor stipends for officers that take on additional duties. Firearms instructors, evidence custodians, the school resource officer, and employees assigned to NEMLAC, SRT, would be eligible for either 48 cents an hour increase or 24 cents an hour increase, depending on the assignment. So it just gives the officers that get those special assignments a slight impact. That impact is, for the 48 cents, it's about $1,000 a year, and for 24 cents, it's about $500 a year. The next page is a second kind of, this was in the agreement. This is all the grid that shows the shifts, but it's the same as the information that's already in the other documents. We get to Article 14, which is overtime. The changes here are, the union had requested that we refresh the overtime list twice a year, on January 1st and July 1st, and so that in 14.02, we codified that refreshing of the list. In 14.03, we just deleted some language that talked about seniority, and when an officer refuses, their name comes to the bottom of the list. That's not hasn't been the practice in town. So that language was refused. The compensatory time, indeed, that is not a change. That is a language from an MOU that was already signed by the town. That's just being incorporated. So that's not something that was bargained during this agreement. But we just put it in that section because that section was already being tweaked. Article 14-06. This is understanding that for computing overtime, sick leave would be considered hours worked. This avoids a situation where an individual who's scheduled for overtime later in the week and is legitimately ill feels that they need to come in, or else they won't be eligible for that overtime later in the week. And that's not something that I think we want to encourage, given what the world just went through. I want to encourage people who are sick to stay home. So so they won't be, if they call out sick before scheduled overtime, they won't be losing that overtime. And so that's that language. Article 20-01, this is the detail rate that's already in effect. We just agreed to, it was in a separate sidebar, and there was a lot of confusing language about details, so we deleted all that confusing language and left in the current detail rate. Article 20.2, again, is language that was already in a separate sidebar and has been separately negotiated. The question did come up, if you look down in 20.05, where we talk about retired full-time officers, and there was some concern, quite frankly, from the town side about allowing retired officers without any further qualifications to serve for details. So now they have to be certified, which means they have to go through the post-certification. They still have to be post-certified in order to be able to serve on that assignment with the town, which we believe will keep us from getting in a situation where we have basically an officer that's not keeping up with his training that might be in a dangerous situation. The 20-01, clothing and equipment, that first one, the $1,200 is not a change. It's just codifying. You see that later that says we changed it to $1,200 in FY03 or in FY13. So we just removed the language that says there's some sort of scale because we're already at $1,200, but that's not what's happening in reality. The second line about issuing the 600 rounds is something it was in a sidebar that they were getting 600 rounds.
We're talking about that before.
Of training ammunition. So it's not, we did get them to agree that the monthly cost won't exceed $600 annually. So we're limiting that cost of rounds to the town. And so that should keep us from having any unanticipated spikes in cost of training rounds. The rest of this is just, that page is just renumbering. As you can see, there's an equipment checklist here.
Can you go over 20.3, can you explain what that is, the quarter tire? Is that annual?
So that's not a change, that's been in the system, that's been in the area for a long time, but that would mean if there's a detective, because the equipment that's provided for by the town is not appropriate for court attire. If you have to go testify in court, which the detective often has to do, they get an additional $100 for court attire. But again, that's not an addition, that's just, that's been in the area for a long time. And then 29-02, the Quinn bill language is at the bottom there.
Didn't we eliminate the Quinville stuff a while back?
The town never eliminated the town's portion of the Quinn bill. The town just eliminated it, just made it clear that we weren't picking up what the state decided they were gonna pay. And so this just this is clarifying it. The Quinn bill had some fairly restrictive language on kind of which institutions you are allowed to go to be Quinn bill qualified. And so this, we kind of rewrote it, so this is in the spirit of the Quinn bill, but it's not, it doesn't change the functional amounts that are being given to the individuals.
But we're still responsible for, what, 50% of the incentive pay?
Yes. Yeah, we've been, and that's not a change. The town's been responsible for that ever since Quinn was adopted by the town. The last change is, the union agreed to accrue vacations.
That's it, that's all of them then, right?
That's it.
Yeah. Good job. Finally.
So, the accrued vacations language they just put accrued, but they accrued at 1/12 rate, and they have to pay it back if they leave before they.
Perfect. Good job. So all unions are all done, we're all set. We vote on this and we're good.
Well, no,
We still have one.
there's still water and highway.
Yeah.
Which I was saying, which is what I'm gonna discuss the water portion of the water and highway union next. But I would like, I do think we need to vote on this first. Authorize me to sign on behalf of the.
So I will entertain a vote. I mean, a motion, a vote.
One of the two.
Yes, I'll entertain a motion to accept, to have the town administrator sign for it.
Make a motion that we have the town minister sign the proposed 3470 town police unit proposed contract presented to us.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? Thank you very much for your work. I appreciate it. All those in favor?
Teresa Morse, aye.
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 So that's the documentary collective bargaining agreement. By way of update, the highway and water union, I think I mentioned to the members, the highway and water union is split into subgroups. So it's still the same union, but there's a highway subgroup and a water subgroup. Ron over at Highway, who retired earlier this year, was the union steward for Highway, and so the union is that we're having trouble getting in touch with the person who can represent the union. There's only 4 guys over there who are in the union, but Bobby Jones is having trouble nailing down Highway. I believe we have a functional agreement in place with highway, but until we get paper, I don't have anything to. The other and kind of more complicated portion of that union is water. And I think, I mentioned this as a possibility the last time we talked about the water department is, I believe that what we're gonna be seeking is a 1-year just salary agreement between that portion of the union and the town until we get the
Yeah,
Collins.
yeah.
The Collins, until the Collins people look at that report and get back to something, I'm not comfortable suggesting that the Board of Selectmen do anything other than give them kind of 1 year, and they've kind of accepted that. So the 1 year,
How do we formalize that?
it's gonna be a memorandum of agreement, and that language is being worked on now, but it's not. Bobby should give me something soon. I was hoping to have it before the meeting, but I don't have it yet. But it's just gonna be for a wage increase for FY20. And as I mentioned to the board, what I proposed was a 5%. That includes the step for people who have steps. So it's not 5 and a step, it's 5%. And if that includes your step, you get step plus 3, and if you don't have step, it's 5. So they are an enterprise account. They're functionally different than the rest of our kind of unions because of that. I think this puts us in a position where we still have some flexibility if we do need to make changes kind of going forward, but we're not going to discuss any of that right now. That will be further bargain and further changes. So what I would be hoping would be if the board would vote to authorize me to sign an MOA that includes a 5% salary increase for the water portion of the water highway.
I'll entertain a motion for that.
Make a motion that we authorize Eric to sign an MOA for the water portion, 5% increase for MOA for the water portion.
Water highway.
I second. I got it.
Okay.
Yep. Getting tired.
I hear you there. All those in favor?
Pretty much, yeah.
Aye. All right. You are authorized.
So, and that is all of the unions. So once we nail down highway, and then we'll just be left with water. They already have accrued vacation, so with the agreements that we have in place now, accrued vacation is with every union for that contracts. So I appreciate the work for.
Yeah, that's monumental, actually. But everything went forward, and I'm happy with that. 5.0, ARPA projects, building evaluation,
I am gonna ask if we could take that off to the 25th, I apologize.
to the 25th. 5.1, town administrator updates and reports.
So I have a couple of updates, both about the same general idea. I did talk to the chair about this idea, so as folks know, the bandstand is now functional, and is usable for, the band concerts. I have been informed, however, that we're there, of a couple of different things. Number one, they're very grateful for the $10,000 in ARPA funds that we gave them. It looks like we're gonna need to find about $1,000 more. I hoped that they were gonna come in under the 10,000, but there were a couple of electrical change orders they had to do. And so it's gonna be about $1,000 more. So I'm gonna try to sort out a location to pay for those funds as soon as possible. I'm likely to, I think, I'm gonna look at some accounts that haven't been encumbered and try to encumber them, because the work was done in FY23, so we're gonna come from FY23, it's not gonna affect our FY24 budget. So the band concerts, as everyone, it's a very big deal here in town, but they're not getting, they haven't had every slot signed up for doing food. So the idea was floated that the Board of Selectmen and the TA could step up and do one of the nights of the band
I
concert.
think they have one left.
I think there's one left. I think it's on the 20, I think it's the 27th.
Yeah.
It's July 27th. Step up and work the grill at the band concert for the kids' country playground. As the charity that would have funds.
Yeah, we'd have to do a charity and it would be the Kids Country Playground.
And so I wanted to throw that out to
brainstorm.
I wanted to throw that out to the board.
You can't confirm or deny.
Yeah, I will take the bullet for this. I think I probably am the person who said it out loud.
How well do you cook?
I'm a master on the grill. The grill would be provided for us, like I think.
That's still in the cash box, so I have no problem.
So, if folks are, if the board is interested, I will work to make that happen for us on the 27th. It would likely start at like 5 or 5:30. We'd have to go out and, get started, and we'd have to make sure that the board members wouldn't have to do this. We'd obviously have to make sure that whatever equipment we needed was there. I'll work with Roger on it. My thought process about it is, I think it would just be kind of good for us all to kind of be out there and like smiling at the people who are coming to the band, Like I think it would be good.
I am all for it.
I just think it's, I think that, I know that you guys are all in the community and you're out doing all your things. I just think that, sometimes identify, having the board as an entity out there kind of
Wonderful.
flipping burgers and
That's great.
rolling
Wonderful
dogs,
idea.
I just think it just might be a fun thing. People can see us out there, kind of.
No.
So if
So you set it all up and you tell us what we need to do.
that's what I would, if the board's interested, if folks are willing to sign up, I will talk to Roger.
There's a sign-up sheet.
You're on TV, so if you say you're gonna do it now, I got proof. I got video proof.
We'll be there.
Okay, so I'll work with Roger to nail down the specifics and figure out the equipment that we need to get, and then we'll do it on the 27th.
This month.
This month, yes, so 2 weeks from this Thursday. 2 weeks. The burgers.
No, he said he's a grill master. We're just gonna go there and look pretty.
No, you know what's gonna happen? You and I are gonna work and he's gonna be talking to everybody.
So, can I ask a question under, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but under your administrative updates and reports? So back in, when I was on originally, myself, Chaz, and Veronica, we set a policy that each department head every month would send a board of selectmen in to the town administrator an update of what they've done, where they're planning to go. We had that forever and ever, but I haven't seen that since I've been back on. Are we doing that? Whatever happened to that?
So I had asked the departments to send me, I didn't know that there was that it was supposed to go to the board of selectmen, so I apologize. I had asked the department heads to send me, monthly updates. We're having a meeting next week, so I'll just ask them to start including the board.
Yeah, so every department head would send, we would see, they'd all come in.
Sure, no, I'll ask them to start including. I
And that
apologize.
way we could just kind of see what's going on.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
I also wanted to mention, just to the board, that we got a congratulatory letter from Representative Scarsdale for the Community Compact Municipal Fiber Grant that we received.
Nice.
So, I just want to let people know.
Can't wait to spend that.
Yes. And that is that. Thank you.
Alrighty, 5.2, reports from board liaisons.
I do want to say that, we did get the, Green Communities, request out. I will be going over the breakdown of how we're looking to spend them once we get that, what they're going to be rewarding, so I should have that for the next meeting. I'll print out what they're proposing, so we can kind of look at it and see if you have any insight you want to change. I just said, for them to, do what they feel is best, but I don't, they want to, have some feedback from the board, so I'll bring a copy of that next
Okay,
week.
that sounds good. Is that it?
Yes.
Elected boards. Where do I start? Well, I will say that we had the water groundbreaking today, which I thought was really, really well attended. It was nice to see a lot of people. I was surprised to find out that I was speaking at that, and I didn't know that I was being spoken or had to speak. But
It sounded prepared.
did it? Good. I think the thing that impressed me the most is that there was genuine interest from Representative Scarsdale and Senator Cronin and Trahan's office as well. It was nice to hear them say that this was one of the first rural communities that actually are doing something about it.
Yeah.
And the fact that the hurdles that we had to jump through to get to where we're at right now after 2 years, I think is pretty monumental, because if you looked at that total project, it's about $24 million. I mean, that's huge. Here we are in Townsend, and we put that together in 2 years. That's very, very impressive as far as.
We have a lot to thank to Dave for that. Dave was very aggressive.
Dave and the commissioners.
Yeah.
The water commissioners.
Absolutely.
Todd and Nate, they've been one commissioner down, and they've had to make a lot of decisions. Todd's knowledge is just phenomenal when it comes to he certainly got his money's worth when he was going through his biology school or whatever degree he has, but he does a lot of work with the state. He does a lot of work with, he's on another water municipality, but he really did a great job. And it looked like their staff put together the food and all of that kind of stuff, so it was very well done.
I apologize. I think one of the most crucial things was, it came out really well when the DEP rep spoke about how, because of our place in line, which, Dave and Todd and I give them all the credit, and quite frankly, the town for voting on it multiple times at town meeting, big numbers, got us in line. So we're gonna get money that is not gonna be around forever, and they're gonna be communities, and we're gonna know them. We're gonna see it in the paper when they're gonna have to pay for these same treatment plants that we're getting at pennies on the dollar, and they're gonna have to pay for them full price.
Correct.
So I think a lot of credit to all the people who worked really hard to get that done as fast as possible.
It would be everybody's opportunity to see all of us in hard hats and vests. Which,
The high vis looks good.
yeah, right? But that was, there's a lot of other issues that we're working out, that, well, I shouldn't say we, I just happened to be there for the meetings, but they're doing a lot of work on Harbor Trace. You can see it going into Timberley. That whole line is being implemented. To be able to do the amount of work that they're doing in the time frame that they're doing it, to me, is seeing it, I saw all the reports and how they're gonna put it all together, and to actually see it come to fruition it's quite exciting. But I do thank all of them. It was a fun time. I also have been working with the planning board. Planning board's got a lot on their plate, in regards to, I don't know if anybody looked around, but there's a lot of new houses popping up here in town. Every time I see that, it's like, yes, that's kind of what I would like to see. And it's controlled build, and it's something that we've been really trying to put together with the infrastructure. Do we have any things for the building commissioner? Any, bites on that?
No.
Okay.
I've gotten the building commissioner in Groton reached out. He wants to stay the building commissioner in Groton and wants to see if he can do both of them. I haven't reached the point at this stage where I'm ready to approach the board about maybe it being a part-time job, but that may be coming if I don't get any bites.
I just hope that we're taking care of what we need to take care of, because I know that the building department's pretty busy. Right?
Yes, and I'll give Roland, who's the acting as our building inspector, a lot of credit. He said he's gonna step up. He's here 3 days a week doing inspections. He's retired, so he's.
I've heard a lot of good things out there that, given a lot of people in the building, and it's been unbelievable, the response. They say, they call, he's there, and that's really good.
Yeah, we're trying, the reality is, he's not here for a full 3 days, and there is gonna come a time when things are gonna start, when the plant starts to need regular inspections,
Yep.
that may cause us some problems. So, but I've talked to Roland about it, we have some ideas, but I think that the best idea would be to hire someone.
And that's it for me. Public safety?
Public safety, I've had meetings with the fire chief and police chief, both of them. Police chief is very happy the way his department is running. He's pretty much so at full staff. He got a couple that are coming out of the academy pretty quick. So that's been really good for him. He feels the morale, personnel's really upbeat, and he said that hasn't been that way in a long time. Fire department is absolutely running like a clock over there. I don't know how Mr. Shepherd does it as a part-time, full-time chief.
Yeah.
But I've never gone by, I haven't seen him there. I've talked to many of the different employees over there, and they're like, they can't be any happier. We've seen it just in some of the money that he's been able to transfer out of what we were paying for per diems, because my opinion, when I was on a year ago, that was just a colossal failure over there. We were paying more money out in overtime to fill all those shifts, and so neither one of them had anything negative to say. They're both happy. Both department personnel are happy. All we can hope for is keep on going.
Thank you. All right.
Go through the announcements.
Announcements, I have,
Let's go through them then.
what's that?
Do you want to go through those?
No, I have them, we have them on the agenda.
Yeah, those are the same ones here.
Go ahead.
Okay, so they're not in the exact order, but I'll go through the order they're here. The first one we have is Shirley Coit is celebrating her 80th birthday, that she's excited. We're announcing that at the town meeting. We also wanted to announce a list of lawn party sponsors. So July 27th is Kids Country Playground, and the Townsend Board of Selectmen is gonna be there serving. So come down, come
The
on.
late edition.
The lady
I
did
see what she did.
August 3rd is Friends of Townsend Library. August 10th is Friends of Townsend Seniors. August 17th is to be determined, and then we'll go into the 24th and 31st if we need a rain date. So those are rain dates to be determined. We have 3 legal notices, one all pursuant to Well, the first one pursuant to the Wetland Protection Act, and that's on the property on, what was it? So, um, 158 Main Street, and that will be a meeting up. That meeting is already passed, so we don't need to go. 66, there was a one July 12th, which also was passed.
July 12th is tomorrow.
So that's 66, Bayberry Hill Road. There'll be a meeting tomorrow, public hearing with the Townsend Conservation Committee at 7:45 PM. And finally, 96 Pittsburgh Road will be July 24th at 6:45 PM in this hall in regards to the property on 96 Pittsburgh Road, if anybody has any interest in those. We have 3 resignations. I'd like to announce that these resignations, before I even announce them, I want to thank the people for the years of service and all they have done for the town. Alice Struthers has announced that she is resigning from the Townsend Historic District. Alice, thank you for all you've done, and good luck in what you do in the future. Bernadette Orianian has announced that she is resigning effective June 23rd from the Townsend Council of Aging. Again, Bernadette, thank you for all you have provided to the town, and good luck with all you do in the future. And finally, Laura Shafran is resigning on June, announced her resignation on July 7th from the Townsend Housing Authority, effective immediate. Laura, thank you for all you've done with the Townsend Housing, but I know you're still involved in many other things, and look forward to seeing you on the other teams. Finally, the last one is the Zoning Board of Appeal is looking for members if people want to volunteer. So they are looking for members. Would like anybody to consider that. Those are all the announcements I have.
I have 2.
Okay. I got everyone in the folder.
I just want to announce that we are doing a telephone cutover this week. Our telephone service on the 14th is going to be transferred from our current system to a new system. So if you're experiencing any problems with the telephone, that's because we are doing the cutover. But hopefully that will be smooth.
Your mouth to God's ears.
Yes, I know, but it's a part of our working on our infrastructure
Yes.
here, IT infrastructure. That was a big part of it. They'll be replacing, patching, and testing the new telephones. They're going to be between here, between here, the highway barn, and cemetery, and Parks and Cemetery. So that should be interesting. I also have, I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Me too.
I have been asked by Chief Sartell to, it was a memorandum, but I do think that we need to acknowledge that the following officers have completed their mandated in-service training for fiscal year 23. Officer George Reedy, Officer Mark Francis, Officer David Phillips, Officer Jeffrey Giles, Officer Michael Marchand, Officer Christopher Lowe, Officer Eric Medica, Officer Christopher Tucker, Officer Dylan Silvestri, Officer Matthew Varia, Officer Peter Eldridge, and Officer Dylan Dennis. Officer Rafael Hurtas is currently at the academy and as such not entitled to certification pay. This, I think, is the last one that we have that's and that puts us with a full force.
Yeah, once Officer Hortis is on staff, we're full staff.
We will have a full staff, so thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that people get kudos when they deserve it, because I'm sure going through all of that training is not easy, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
Outside of that, do we have anything else? Next meeting is July 25th at 6 PM. And I'll entertain a motion to review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
I'll make a motion that we review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn at 8:50. 8:55.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank
Do we
you
have
very much.
the payroll warrants anywhere?
I don't think we do.
No, we're not good there. There's-
Or just do the stamp, okay?
Yeah, those will be ready tomorrow. This is the last check run for the fiscal year, so there's a lot of work.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and we'll see you on the 25th.